Welcome to Knowledge Sleep Channel, your sanctuary beneath infinite stars, your refuge in the velvet embrace of cosmic night. Tonight, you are safe. Tonight, you are held by forces older than memory, gentler than morning light. Let this be your harbor in the darkness, your quiet place where knowledge becomes dreamscape, where facts transform into lullabies sung by distant suns. Lie back now, completely back, surrendering your weight to the surface beneath you. Feel how the earth receives you, how gravity becomes kindness, pulling tension from your shoulders, drawing worry from your spine like silk threads unraveling in slow motion. Your body knows this letting go. Every cell remembers how to rest, how to release, how to melt like starlight into water. Notice your toes first, those distant companions at the edge of your awareness. They are melting, softening, becoming part of the earth beneath you. Feel them dissolve like morning mist, like nebula wisps dissipating into nothing and everything at once. The sensation travels upward, through your feet, your ankles, a slow tide of relaxation moving with the patience of geological time, with the unhurried rhythm of galaxies turning through space. Now bring your attention to your breath, that faithful companion, that quiet anchor. Breathe in slowly, counting 1, 2, 3, 4. Feel your lungs expand like cosmic clouds gathering hydrogen, like stellar nurseries collecting the raw material of creation. Hold this breath gently, counting 1, 2, 3, 4. No strain, only presence, only the fullness of this moment suspended between heartbeats. Then release, flowing out for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let the exhale carry everything unnecessary into the void, into the peaceful emptiness between stars. Your eyelids are growing heavy now, weighted with the gentle gravity of sleep. They are sealing themselves like the veils of distant nebulae, like cosmic dust clouds folding inward to birth new stars in secret darkness. Each blink becomes slower, each moment of open eyes briefer, until finally they close completely, and you find yourself in the perfect darkness behind your own eyes, a darkness that is not empty but full of possibility, full of the quiet light that emerges when you stop seeking and simply allow. Tonight, you will discover secrets, not the harsh secrets of examination, not the demanding truths of daylight, but the soft revelations that come in whispers, in the language of dreams and distant light. The Milky Way holds its secrets close, like a mother holds her children, like the ocean holds its depths. These are breathing secrets, living truths that pulse with the rhythm of your own heart. You will learn of collisions that happen in slow motion over millions of years, of ancient stars that remember the universe's childhood, of dark whispers moving through invisible seas that bind all things together. Feel your scalp relaxing now, your forehead smoothing like still water under a moonless sky. The tension in your jaw releases, your tongue resting soft in the cavern of your mouth. Your shoulders drop away from your ears, settling earthward with the inevitability of autumn leaves, of meteorites returning home through patient atmospheres. Your arms become heavy, wonderfully heavy, sinking into rest like ships sinking through layers of ocean to the peaceful floor where nothing moves and everything is held. Breathe in the cold light of distant stars. Hold this moment of cosmic stillness. Release into the gathering dark. Again, in a drawing stardust through your lungs. Hold, suspended in the infinite. Out, dissolving into night's embrace. Your breath becomes a tide, becomes the slow turning of spiral arms, becomes the patient exhalation of a galaxy breathing through billions of years. The story tonight will unfold slowly, like a flower blooming in time lapse, like a galaxy revealing its shape as you pull back through space to see the whole vast structure. You don't need to grasp at any single fact. Don't need to hold tight to any particular image. Let the words wash over you like waves. like cosmic radiation, harmless and ancient, carrying information from so far away that it arrives only as gentle suggestion, as distant music heard through many walls. Your chest rises and falls, a rhythm as old as breathing itself, as ancient as the expansion and contraction of space. Feel your ribs expand, feel your belly soften, feel the whole instrument of your body tuning itself to the frequency of rest, to the deep hum that underlies all existence. You are safe here in the darkness. You are held here by forces that never tire, never falter, never forget their eternal work of keeping you exactly where you need to be. The Milky Way is waiting for you, patient as only vast things can be patient. It has been turning in its slow dance for over 13 billion years, and it will wait through this night and all nights for you to join its rhythm, to feel yourself as part of its grand spiral, a note in its endless song. Tonight you will travel without moving, explore without effort, discover without seeking. The secrets will come to you as you drift deeper, deeper into the velvet void where stars whisper and darkness holds you close. Let go of the day behind you. It has already faded into memory, into history, joining all the other days in the vast archive of time. Let go of tomorrow, that phantom that hasn't yet been born, that dream not yet dreamed. Here now in this eternal present, there is only breath, only heartbeat, only the slow descent into sleep's gentle country. Your body knows the way, your mind is learning to follow. Together they spiral down like leaves on autumn wind, like dust settling after a storm, like light bending around massive invisible hearts of darkness. Breathe deeper into stars, drift eternal. The journey begins now, in the quiet space between thoughts, in the vast emptiness that is somehow full of everything you've ever needed. Welcome to the hidden secrets of the galaxy. Welcome to the place where knowledge becomes lullaby. Welcome to sleep profound and peaceful, beneath the watching eyes of a billion distant suns. Imagine, if you can, the quiet pulse of the galaxy, a heartbeat so slow that a single beat takes 250 million years to complete. This is the galactic year, the time it takes for our sun and all its gathered children to make one complete orbit around the center of the Milky Way, around the mysterious heart where gravity grows strong and light bends back upon itself. Feel this rhythm, this pulse beneath all pulses. Your own heart beats 70, 80, perhaps 90 times each minute, a rapid flutter against the slow drum of cosmic time. Yet both are rhythms, both are the music of existence playing itself out in scales vast and small. The Milky Way breathes, not with lungs, not with the expansion and contraction you know from your own body, but with great tidal movements of stars and gas, with flows that surge through spiral arms like blood through vessels, like ocean currents carrying warmth from equator to poles. Millions of stars are born each year in the nurseries, hidden within dark clouds, stellar infants opening their eyes for the first time, beginning their own slow orbits around the galactic center, and millions of stars die, collapsing in on themselves or exploding outward, returning their gathered elements to the great recycling stream, where new generations will gather the same atoms, the same particles of iron and carbon and oxygen, building themselves from the remnants of ancestors they will never know. Picture this breathing ocean of stars, this vast spiral of light turning in the darkness like a luminous whirlpool, like a hurricane of suns spanning 100,000 light years from edge to edge. You are inside it, nested in one of its quieter neighborhoods, riding one of its slower currents. The sun carries you at a speed that seems still to your senses, but is actually a wild rush of 200 kilometers every second, a cosmic velocity that feels like perfect rest because everything around you shares the same motion, the same dance. As you breathe in, imagine breathing in stardust, the actual physical particles that were once inside stars, that were forged in fusion fires, that were scattered by stellar winds and supernova explosions. The calcium in your bones was made in stars. The iron in your blood was born in cores of massive suns that died before your own star was born. You are made of galaxy stuff, of the Milky Way's own substance, and as you relax into sleep, you are simply returning to a deeper awareness of your cosmic origin, your stellar heritage. Feel your body growing softer, heavier, merging with the surface beneath you. Your legs are dissolving now, becoming indistinct, your awareness of them fading like fog under morning sun. There is no need to hold yourself together anymore. You can let go, let the boundaries blur, let yourself expand into the room, into the night, into the vast spaces between stars where most of the galaxy is actually emptiness, is actually the quiet void through which light travels for years without encountering anything solid at all. Breathe this cosmic truth into your cells, into your slowly quieting mind. You are galaxy material, temporary and eternal, unique and utterly common, a pattern that has never existed before and will never exist again, made from ingredients as old as time itself. Feel how this settles into your chest, into your belly, a warm weight of belonging, of being exactly what you are meant to be, where you are meant to be, when you are meant to be it. The pause stretches now, 45 seconds of pure silence, of space for the words to settle like sediment through water, drifting down to the floor of your awareness where they will rest and do their quiet work while you sleep. Nothing to do, nowhere to go, only this breath, only this moment, only the slow spiral down into sleep's embrace. In the depths of space, two galaxies are dancing, the Milky Way and Andromeda, sister spirals separated by 2.5 million light years of darkness, are falling toward each other with the inevitability of gravity, with the patience of cosmic time. Right now, in this moment as you lie here breathing, they are approaching at 110 kilometers every second, a collision happening in such slow motion that entire civilizations could rise and fall in the time it takes for the two galaxies to move noticeably closer. This is not a violent collision, not the crash and destruction you might imagine. Galaxies are mostly empty space, mostly the vast distances between stars. When the Milky Way and Andromeda finally meet, in about 4 billion years, the stars themselves will pass through each other like two swarms of fireflies interpenetrating, almost certainly never touching because the spaces between stars are so enormously vast compared to the stars themselves. The sun could pass through Andromeda's disk and never come closer to another star than it is right now to its nearest neighbors. But the shapes will change. The elegant spirals will distort, will stretch and pull under the tidal forces of their mutual gravity. Spiral arms will scatter. New bursts of star formation will ignite as gas clouds collide and compress. The two galaxies will pass through each other, then swing back, then pass again, a dance of approach and retreat, of merger and temporary separation, until finally they settle into a new configuration, a new shape, perhaps an elliptical galaxy, a smooth football of stars with no spiral structure, no rotating disk, just an ancient peaceful sphere of suns moving in random orbits around a common center. Feel this slow dance in your own body, in the way your breath rises and falls, approaches and retreats, a rhythm of merger and separation happening 70 times a minute instead of once every billion years. Your ribs expand outward, then release inward. Your belly rises toward the ceiling, then settles back toward your spine. You are dancing too, on your own scale, in your own time, part of the same universal choreography that moves galaxies and atoms, that spins electrons in spiral arms. As the two galaxies approach, there are stars being disturbed, flung from their comfortable orbits into wild new trajectories. Some stars will be ejected completely, thrown out of both galaxies to wander the intergalactic void alone, orphaned by the gravitational chaos of the merger. These are the hypervelocity stars, the cosmic refugees, traveling at speeds of 1,000 kilometers per second or more, fast enough to escape the combined gravity of both galaxies, doomed to spend eternity in the cold space between galaxy clusters, in the truly empty regions where darkness is almost absolute and the nearest star is millions of light years away. Imagine the loneliness of such a star, cast out from the crowded neighborhoods of the galactic disk into exile among voids. Yet imagine, too, the strange freedom, the wild journey through spaces no star has traveled before, seeing the galaxy from outside as a complete structure, a whole spiral visible all at once instead of experienced only as a local neighborhood of nearby stars. There is something beautiful in this exile, something strangely peaceful in the absolute solitude, the perfect quiet of the cosmic desert between galaxies. Your own mind is quieting now, finding its own solitude, its own peaceful exile from the crowded thoughts of day. The constant chatter is fading, the endless stream of words and worries thinning out like stars at the edge of a galaxy, becoming sparse, becoming rare, until there are long stretches of nothing at all, just empty awareness, just the quiet hum of consciousness itself, without content, without object, without anything to hold on to or push away. Breathe into this emptiness, this spaciousness. Let yourself be a wandering star, cast out from the dense center where everything competes for attention, where gravity is strong and orbits are constrained. Out here in the quiet dark, you are free to simply be, to exist without purpose or direction, to rest in the fundamental peace that underlies all things, that waits patiently for every busy mind to finally exhaust itself and settle into stillness. The collision is coming, but it is 4 billion years away, and tonight you are safe. Tonight you are held in the Milky Way's current structure, its present spiral form, its temporary but enduring pattern. Feel how this knowledge settles into your bones, into your slowly quieting nervous system. Change is coming, vast change, cosmic transformation, but not tonight. Tonight there is only rest, only the slow turning of the galaxy as it has turned for eons, only the peaceful darkness where stars are born and die, where galaxies dance their patient dances, where you can finally, completely let go and sleep. Breathe this cosmic truth deeper into your dissolving body, into the space you are becoming. The Milky Way and Andromeda are approaching. Stars will be scattered. New stars will be born from the collision of gas clouds, and all of it will happen in the fullness of time, in the vast patience of cosmic scales, where 4 billion years is simply the next moment, the next breath, the next slow beat of the galactic heart. Deeper into stars, safer in darkness. The void holds you close now. Sleep comes like gravity, inevitable and gentle, pulling you down through layers of consciousness into the deep rest where galaxies merge and separate in your dreams, where you are both the wandering star and the warm spiral arm, both the exile and the homecoming, both the collision and the peaceful space between. Ancient light is falling on your closed eyes, not the light from the sun, not even the light from nearby stars, but photons that have traveled for billions of years to reach this moment, to arrive at the exact instant you lie here breathing in the darkness. These photons left their source stars when the universe was younger, when galaxies were closer together, when the cosmic web was more tightly woven. They have traveled through expanding space, through voids and clusters, through the halos of dark matter, arriving finally here, now, carrying messages from a past so distant it might as well be another universe entirely. The Milky Way has a halo, a vast spherical region surrounding the flat disk where most stars reside. This halo is ancient, populated by wanderers, by stars that don't participate in the orderly rotation of the spiral arms, but instead follow their own eccentric orbits, plunging through the disk at steep angles, swinging far out into the empty spaces beyond the visible galaxy, then falling back toward the center only to swing out again in their wild elliptical paths. These halo stars are among the oldest in the galaxy, born in the first billion years after the Big Bang, when the universe was hotter, denser, when galaxies were just beginning to coalesce from the primordial clouds of hydrogen and helium. They are metal poor, these ancient stars, because they were born before generations of stars had lived and died, before supernovae had scattered iron and carbon and oxygen into the cosmic mix. They are made almost entirely of the original elements, the hydrogen and helium that came from the Big Bang itself, and studying them is like reading the galaxy's birth certificate, like finding fossilized remains of the Milky Way's earliest days. Feel yourself drifting back in time, back through billions of years, becoming lighter, simpler, more fundamental. Your complex thoughts are dissolving into simpler awareness. Your elaborate worries are breaking down into basic sensations, warmth, weight, the rise and fall of breath. You are becoming primordial, approaching the original state of simple being, of existence without story, without history, without the heavy elements of personality and memory. The halo stars wander. They don't follow the neat circular orbits of the disk stars. They are rebels, outsiders, following their own strange paths through and around the galaxy. Some of them may have been captured from smaller galaxies that the Milky Way devoured in its youth, gravitationally absorbed into our galaxy's growing mass. They remember other homes, other galaxies now dissolved and forgotten, their stars scattered and integrated into the Milky Way's growing population. Your body is scattering too, losing its boundaries, its sharp definition. Where do your hands end and the air begin? The distinction is blurring. Your skin is not a wall but a permeable membrane, a suggestion of separation that is actually continuous with everything around it. Atoms move in and out. Heat radiates away. Sound waves press and release. You are not separate from the room, from the earth, from the galaxy. You are a temporary condensation of galaxy material, a brief intensification of matter and energy that will eventually dissipate back into the larger whole, just as waves rise from the ocean and fall back, just as clouds gather from invisible vapor and dissolve again into invisible air. Breathe with the halo stars, those ancient wanderers. Your breath is their orbit, rising from the center, sweeping out to the edges of awareness, then falling back, then rising again, in, up through the galactic disk, hold, suspended at the halo's outer edge, out, falling back toward the center, diving through the plane of the spiral, emerging on the other side, again, in, rising, hold, turning, out, falling. These stars have witnessed the entire history of the Milky Way. They were born when the galaxy was young and chaotic, when its shape was not yet settled, when everything was still finding its pattern, its rhythm, its eventual form. They remember the early mergers, the galaxies that collided and combined to build the Milky Way into the spiral it is today. They are witnesses, archivists, living records of cosmic history, written in the ratios of elements in their atmospheres, in the patterns of their orbits, in the way their light shifts and dims as they spin. You too are a record, a living archive of your own history. Every cell carries memory, every scar tells a story, every settled pattern of thought reflects years of experience, of learning, of adaptation to the environment you've moved through. But tonight, you can let these records rest. Let the archive go quiet. Let the memories settle into deep storage where they won't disturb your sleep. You don't need to remember anything right now. You don't need to witness or record or preserve. You can simply be, like a star shining without self-consciousness, without awareness of its own light, without any thought of the past or future. Only the eternal present of fusion and radiation of gravity and light. Feel the ancient peace of the halo stars settling into your chest, into your belly, into the very marrow of your bones. You are old, you are young, you are eternal in this moment. The boundaries of time are dissolving like the boundaries of your body, like the boundaries between self and cosmos, like the arbitrary lines humans draw to separate what is actually continuous, actually whole, actually one single field of being expressing itself in temporary forms, deeper into the ancient light, safer in the halo's embrace. The wanderers know the way home, even as they wander, even as they drift through vast distances, even as they follow their eccentric paths. Home is not a place, but a belonging, not a location, but a participation in the larger pattern. You belong here, in this galaxy, in this moment, in this breath. You are home even as you wander through dreams, even as you drift through the landscapes of sleep, even as your consciousness travels to strange shores and distant nebulae in the private universe behind your closed eyes. Breathe this cosmic truth, this stellar peace. The halo holds memories of creation. You can rest in those memories without carrying them. You can be ancient and newborn all at once, wise and innocent, journeyed and fresh. The pause comes again, 45 seconds of pure space, of emptiness fuller than any fullness, of silence more eloquent than any speech. Rest here, drift here. Let the ancient light carry you deeper into sleep's ocean, into the abyss of unconsciousness where all things are renewed, where all things return to source before rising again, transformed. The Milky Way is eating. Right now, at this moment, our galaxy is consuming smaller galaxies, drawing them in with its massive gravitational field, tearing them apart with tidal forces, incorporating their stars into its own growing population. This is how galaxies grow, not by creating matter from nothing, but by gathering what already exists, by pulling in the smaller neighbors, by merging and absorbing and accumulating mass over billions of years. The Sagittarius dwarf elliptical galaxy is being devoured as you lie here breathing. It's a small galaxy, a satellite orbiting the Milky Way, but with each orbit it comes closer, and with each pass through our galactic disk it loses more of itself, more of its stars stripped away by our galaxy's stronger gravity. The stars from Sagittarius are now scattered through the Milky Way's halo and disk, former citizens of another galaxy now absorbed into our own stellar population, immigrants who will never return home because home no longer exists as a separate place. Feel how your body is absorbing this moment, taking it in, integrating it into your experience. Every word you hear becomes part of you. Every breath changes you slightly. Every heartbeat moves fresh blood through vessels, bringing oxygen to cells, carrying away waste. You are constantly consuming and releasing, taking in and letting go, maintaining yourself through continuous exchange with the environment. The boundary of your skin is an illusion of separation. What you call you is actually a process, a flow, a constant transformation of matter and energy that maintains a relatively stable pattern for a few decades before dissolving back into the larger patterns from which it emerged. The Milky Way has consumed many galaxies in its history. The halo stars we just visited may have come from these devoured siblings, these smaller galaxies that were pulled in and torn apart, their stars scattered throughout our galaxy like ingredients mixed into a cosmic soup. Astronomers can still detect the streams of stars that were once part of separate galaxies, can trace the paths where these ancient collisions happened, can reconstruct the history of merger and absorption that built the Milky Way into the massive spiral it is today. There is something both violent and peaceful in this process. The word devour sounds aggressive, sounds destructive, but from the stars' perspective, does it matter which galaxy they orbit? They continue shining either way, continue following their paths through space, continue converting hydrogen to helium in their cores. The galaxy name is a human label, a conceptual boundary that has no real meaning to the stars themselves. They are simply matter following the dictates of gravity, objects moving through the curved space-time created by mass, participants in the vast dance of cosmic evolution. Your thoughts are being absorbed into sleep now, pulled in by the massive gravity of unconsciousness, stripped away from the waking mind that tried to hold them. One by one, they are losing their coherence, their separate identity, becoming part of the larger flow of awareness that doesn't distinguish between thoughts, that doesn't label or categorize or hold on to anything. This thought appears, then disappears. Another thought arises from nowhere, exists for a moment, then returns to nowhere. You are not losing anything. You are simply allowing things to flow through you without grasping, without trying to keep what was never meant to be permanent. The smaller galaxies around the Milky Way are doomed. The large and small Magellanic Clouds, visible in the southern hemisphere as fuzzy patches of light, are satellite galaxies currently orbiting us, but eventually they too will be pulled in, torn apart, their stars scattered through our halo and disk. It might take billions of years, but gravity is patient. Gravity always wins. Gravity never forgets or relents or changes its mind. Yet those stars will continue existing. The matter will persist. The energy will endure. Nothing is truly destroyed, only transformed, only redistributed, only rearranged into new patterns. The Magellanic Clouds will die as separate galaxies, but their stars will live on as Milky Way stars. Their identity changed, but their existence continuing. There is a strange comfort in this, a cosmic reassurance that nothing is ever really lost, that all things persist even as forms change, that the fundamental substance of reality is conserved even as its expressions shift and transform. Breathe into this knowledge of transformation. Your day has been absorbed into memory. Your waking self is being pulled into the sleep self. The person you were this morning is already gone, changed by the hours that passed, by the experiences you had, by the thoughts you thought, and the food you ate, and the air you breathed. You are not the same being from moment to moment, yet something continuous runs through all the changes, some thread of identity that persists even as everything else shifts. Feel yourself being pulled inward now, drawn toward the center of your own being, toward the deep core where consciousness rests when not actively engaged with the world. This is like falling toward the galactic center, spiraling inward through layers of awareness, moving from the busy outer regions where thoughts swirl and collide toward the quiet center, where there is only presence, only the simple fact of existing, only the fundamental awareness that doesn't need content, doesn't need objects, doesn't need anything to be aware of in order to be aware. The Milky Way grows by eating. You grow by learning, by absorbing experience, by taking in the world through your senses and transforming it into understanding, into memory, into the complex pattern of neural connections that makes you who you are. But tonight you can rest from growing. Tonight you can simply be the size you are, the person you are, without any need to expand or improve or change. You can let the galaxy handle the growing. You can sleep deeper into the spiral, safer in the swallowing dark. The small galaxies merge into the large. The separate thoughts merge into general awareness. The distinct moments of breath merge into the continuous rhythm of breathing. Everything is dissolving boundaries, erasing lines, becoming the one thing it always was beneath the illusion of separation. Rest in this oneness, drift in this unity. Sleep comes like gravity, pulling all things toward the center, toward the heart, toward the place where everything belongs and nothing is foreign and all is held in perfect gravitational embrace. The pause opens again, vast and welcoming, a space where words don't go, where even breath becomes uncertain, becomes a suggestion rather than an action, becomes something that happens to you rather than something you do. 45 seconds, an eternity, a single moment, both and neither. Only the quiet hum of existence, only the peace that passes understanding, only the rest that restores all things to their original simplicity. At the center of the Milky Way, hidden behind veils of dust and gas, there is a heart of darkness. Astronomers call it Sagittarius A, a supermassive black hole containing the mass of 4 million suns, compressed into a region smaller than the solar system. This is the anchor around which the entire galaxy rotates, the gravitational center that holds 200 billion stars in their orbits, the silent heart that never radiates but only absorbs, only pulls inward with a gravity so strong that not even light can escape if it crosses the event horizon, that invisible boundary beyond which nothing returns. Feel your own center now, the quiet place inside where everything settles, where all the scattered energies of your day spiral inward and come to rest. This is your own heart of darkness. Not dark in the sense of evil, but dark in the sense of mystery, of depth, of something so fundamental it can't be illuminated from outside, can only be known by becoming it, by sinking into it, by allowing yourself to be pulled past the event horizon of waking consciousness into the black hole of sleep. The supermassive black hole at the galactic center is mostly quiet now, mostly sleeping. There was a time billions of years ago when it was active, when it was feeding voraciously on gas and stars that ventured too close, when it was radiating enormous energies, when jets of matter shot out from the accretion disk at nearly the speed of light, when the center of the galaxy was a blazing quasar visible across billions of light years. But now it rests, patient, waiting. Occasionally a star wanders too close and is torn apart by tidal forces, stretched into a stream of gas that spirals into the black hole, briefly brightening the center before the feeding ends and quiet returns. Your own mind was active today, feeding on stimulation, on information, on the constant stream of sights and sounds and thoughts that poured through your senses. But now it is time to rest, to stop feeding, to let the jets of thought shut down, to allow the brilliant quasar of waking consciousness to fade into the quiet darkness of sleep. The black hole doesn't disappear when it stops feeding. It simply waits, massive and patient, defining the center by its very presence, even when nothing visible marks its location. Imagine falling toward this center, spiraling inward through the galactic disk, past the spiral arms with their bright newborn stars, through the molecular clouds where stellar nurseries glow with infrared light, through the inner regions where stars orbit faster and faster as gravity grows stronger, until finally you approach the very center, the heart of hearts, the place where space itself curves back on itself, where time dilates and distorts, where all our familiar physics breaks down and something stranger takes over. You won't cross the event horizon tonight. You'll fall toward it asymptotically, getting closer and closer but never quite reaching, existing in that boundary state between waking and sleeping, between consciousness and unconsciousness, between being someone and being no one in particular. This is the most restful place, this liminal space, this threshold where you're not quite anywhere but suspended between states, held in the gravitational field of sleep but not yet absorbed, still falling, endlessly falling, but never hitting bottom because there is no bottom, only the infinite descent into rest. The black hole warps space around it. Time runs slower near the event horizon. An observer falling toward the black hole would seem to freeze from the perspective of someone far away, would appear to slow down and stop at the horizon, their image growing dimmer and redder as the light struggles to escape the intense gravity. You are slowing down now too, your thoughts spreading out, taking longer to form, becoming dim and indistinct as you approach your own event horizon, the boundary between thought and no thought, between awareness and the deep unconsciousness where dreams rise like quantum fluctuations from the vacuum, like virtual particles appearing and disappearing at the edge of the unknowable. Around the supermassive black hole, there orbit stars so close they complete their circuits in just a few years, racing around the invisible center at speeds of thousands of kilometers per second, their orbits clearly showing that something massive and compact must be there even though nothing can be seen directly. These are called S-stars, and watching them orbit has allowed astronomers to calculate the mass of the black hole with precision, to confirm that general relativity's predictions hold even in this extreme environment, even where gravity is so strong it dominates everything. Your own thoughts orbit the center of your awareness, circling around the still point that is pure consciousness, that is the observer watching the thoughts, the awareness that doesn't move even though everything in awareness moves. As you fall deeper into sleep, these orbits slow, these thoughts become lazy and distant, their paths elongated and uncertain. Eventually they will stop entirely, will be absorbed into the center, will cross their own event horizons and disappear from the observable universe of your waking mind. Breathe into the center, into the heart of darkness that is also the heart of peace. The black hole is not evil, not dangerous unless you venture too close. From a distance, it is simply gravity, simply mass, simply the inevitable result of a massive star collapsing when its fusion fire can no longer resist the inward pull of its own weight. It is the universe's way of saying that sometimes the only way forward is inward. Sometimes the only response to the pressure of existence is to collapse into yourself, to sink into your own depths, to become so dense with being that you create an entirely new relationship with space and time. You are collapsing inward now, condensing, becoming denser with peace, with relaxation, with the weight of sleep settling into every cell. Your atoms are being pulled together, your energy concentrated into smaller and smaller volumes of awareness until you reach a kind of singularity, a point of consciousness so pure and compact it can't be measured or described, can only be experienced as the simple fact of being, the irreducible awareness that remains when everything else has been stripped away. The silent heart pulses without pulsing, the black hole defines without being seen, the center holds without grasping, and you are falling into your own center, into the quiet dark where all things rest, where all things return, where the journey ends by arriving at the place you never left, the home you never abandoned, the eternal now that has always held you even when you thought you were somewhere else, someone else, deeper into darkness, safer in the center's pull. The black hole swallows light and time, sleep swallows worry and effort. Both offer the strange gift of erasure, of undoing, of returning to the state before things were made, before patterns were established, before the universe decided to express itself as you. Rest in this undoing. Trust this darkness. The singularity is not an end but a beginning, not a destruction but a transformation so complete that the before and after bear no relationship except continuity of existence. The pause comes. 45 seconds of falling, of approaching the event horizon, of time dilating and stretching until 1 second feels like an hour, feels like a year, feels like the age of the universe compressed into a single eternal now. Here, now, falling, always falling, never landing, only the descent, only the journey toward the center, only the spiral inward that has no end because the center is everywhere and nowhere, is the point around which everything else rotates but is itself perfectly still, perfectly quiet, perfectly empty of everything except the pure fact of being. Spiral arms are winding through the darkness like luminous rivers, like silver threads woven through the galactic disk. The Milky Way has at least 2 major spiral arms, though the exact number is still debated because we live inside the galaxy and can't step back to see the whole structure clearly. These arms are not solid objects but density waves, regions where stars and gas are compressed together more tightly than average, where the enhanced density triggers star formation, where bright young stars light up the arm and make it visible against the darker regions between. Imagine a wave moving through water, a ripple spreading across a pond. The water itself doesn't travel outward with the wave. It only moves up and down as the wave passes through. Individual water molecules stay roughly in place while the pattern, the waveform, propagates through the medium. Spiral arms work similarly. The stars don't stay in the arms forever. They orbit through the arms,
spending time in the compressed regions where star formation happens, then moving out into the gaps between arms, then eventually entering the next arm as they continue their circuits around the galaxy. Feel this wave motion in your own body in the
way sensations ripple through you. A breath wave moves through your chest, your belly, creating a pattern of motion without the atoms of your body actually traveling anywhere. They vibrate in place. They oscillate around equilibrium positions. The wave passes through and you are changed by it, affected by it, yet you remain essentially where you are, nested in this particular location in space and time. The spiral arms are where stars are born. Great molecular clouds collapse under their own gravity when compressed by the passage of the density wave, fragmenting into smaller clumps that continue collapsing, heating up, eventually igniting fusion in their cores and becoming stars. The brightest, hottest, most massive stars are born in these nurseries, and because they live only a few million years before exploding as supernovae, they never leave the spiral arms. They are born, live, and die all within the arm, marking the location of recent star formation with their intense blue-white light. Your thoughts are like these massive stars, bright and brief, burning hot for a few moments before exhausting their fuel and collapsing. The thoughts you had an hour ago are already gone, already exploded and dispersed. Their energy returned to the background from which new thoughts will condense. You are a constant cycle of creation and destruction, formation and dissolution, stars being born and dying in the galactic disk of your awareness, lighting up temporarily before fading back into darkness. The sun is not in one of the major spiral arms. We live in a minor arm, a spur called the Orion Arm or the Orion Spur, a smaller feature connecting two larger arms. This is a quieter neighborhood, less dense with stars, less active in star formation. It's a suburban region of the galaxy, away from the bright downtown of the galactic center, away from the busy spiral arms where stars crowd together and supernova explode frequently. Here in the Orion Spur, things are calmer, safer, more conducive to the long-term stability that life requires to evolve over billions of years. Feel yourself settling into your own quiet spur, your own peaceful eddy in the cosmic current. You don't need to be in the bright center of activity. You don't need to be in the densest, most stimulating part of existence. Here, in this quiet moment, in this dim room, in this gentle darkness, you have everything you need. The peace of the suburbs, the safety of the gaps between arms, the rest of the empty spaces where nothing much happens, and that is exactly perfect. The spiral pattern rotates at a different speed than the stars themselves. This is crucial. If the arms were made of fixed stars rotating with them, the galaxy would wind up tighter and tighter over billions of years, until the arms wrapped around the center many times like a coiled spring. But because the arms are density waves and the stars move through them at their own pace, the spiral pattern can persist indefinitely. A stable structure maintained by the wave mechanics of the disk, by the way gravity and rotation interact to create enduring patterns, even as the individual components flow through those patterns. You too are a pattern through which matter flows. The atoms in your body are replaced over time. Cells die and are rebuilt. Molecules are broken down and reassembled. The pattern that is you persists even as the substance changes, even as the material components are continuously exchanged with the environment. You are like a spiral arm, like a waveform, like a stable structure through which matter and energy flow without the structure itself needing to travel anywhere. Breathe with the spiral, with the great winding arms of light threading through darkness. In, following the curve inward. Hold, suspended in the density wave. Out, flowing through to the gap beyond. The rhythm continues, independent of your will, independent of your attention.
as automatic and essential as the rotation of the galaxy, as the orbits of stars, as the waves of gravity rippling through space-time. The spiral is hypnotic, drawing your eye inward, suggesting motion toward the center, even when viewed from above, even when seen as a static image. The arms curve in the direction of rotation, trailing behind like water streaming from a rotating sprinkler, creating the impression of motion, of dynamic flow frozen in a moment. Looking at the Milky Way's spiral structure, even in imagination, creates a feeling of being drawn inward, of spiraling down, of following the curve toward some central mystery. You are spiraling inward now, following your own thought patterns down toward sleep, toward the center of rest, toward the quiet core, where awareness doesn't need objects, where consciousness doesn't need content, where you can exist as pure potential without any particular expression, without any specific form. The spiral draws you down, around, inward, deeper with each circuit, each breath, each beat of your slowing heart. The arms glow with the light of newborn stars, with the ultraviolet radiation of hot, massive suns, with the infrared warmth of dust heated by stellar light. But between the arms there is darkness. There are the older, cooler stars. There is the quiet majority of the galaxy's population living in the gaps, shining steadily in the dark, unnoticed and content. You are moving into the gap now, into the space between thoughts, between breaths, between moments of awareness. Here in the gap is where rest lives, where peace makes its home, where sleep waits with infinite patience for you to stop spiraling and finally arrive at stillness, deeper into the spiral, safer in the winding arms. The pattern holds you even as you move through it. The wave carries you even though you remain essentially still. The galaxy breathes, and you breathe with it, slower now, deeper, finding the rhythm that underlies all rhythms, the pulse beneath all pulses, the eternal rotation that
never tires, never stops, never needs anything but the laws of physics and the presence of mass and space and time. The pause stretches, 45 seconds of spiral motion, of slow rotation, of following the curve inward without effort, without resistance, without any need to understand or control or direct. The spiral knows where it's going. The pattern knows how to maintain itself. You can trust the curve, trust the inward draw, trust the ancient dance of density and light that has been performing itself for billions of years and will continue long after you've woken from this night's sleep and returned to the daily spiral of living, moving, being. Stars are fleeing the galaxy at impossible speeds, racing outward at 1,000 kilometers per second or more, fast enough to escape the Milky Way's gravitational pull entirely. These are the hypervelocity stars, the refugees, the exiles cast out by violent encounters with massive objects at the galactic center. Some were part of binary systems, where one star fell into the supermassive black hole, while the other was flung outward by the gravitational slingshot effect, accelerated to escape velocity by the energy of its companion's destruction. Imagine traveling so fast that you leave behind everything you've ever known, that you shoot through the disk and out into the halo, continuing outward through the dark matter cloud, through the satellite galaxies, out into the intergalactic void where the next galaxy is millions of light years away, and you'll travel for millions of years before encountering anything substantial. This is ultimate solitude, ultimate freedom, ultimate exile from the galaxy that gave you birth. Your own thoughts sometimes race like this, accelerated by anxiety or excitement into wild trajectories that take them far from the calm center you're trying to rest in. Worries shoot outward at impossible speeds. Fears flee into the dark spaces where you can't catch them, or reason with them, or bring them back into the comfortable orbit of rational consideration. But you don't need to chase them tonight. You can let them go, let them escape into the void. Let them become someone else's problem or no problem at all. just energy dissipating into the infinite sink of space. Some hypervelocity stars may have been ejected by collisions between binary black holes, by the merger events that release tremendous energies and can kick nearby stars outward with enormous velocities. Others may have been accelerated by three-body interactions, gravitational dances where three stars approach each other and one is flung outward while the other two bind into a tighter orbit. The galaxy is full of violence on scales too vast and too slow for human senses to perceive, encounters that would destroy worlds, but that appear to us as gentle because they take millions of years to unfold. Feel your own violence settling, the internal conflicts quieting, the racing thoughts slowing down. The hypervelocity stars are beautiful in their exile, tragic in their solitude, but they are not you tonight. Tonight, you are a halo star, wandering but still bound, eccentric but not escaped, free to roam but always returning to the galaxy that holds you. Your orbit may be strange, but it is an orbit, a path that loops and returns, that connects you to the center, even as it takes you to the edges. The stars that flee will never see the Milky Way's eventual collision with Andromeda. They'll be too far away by then, lone wanderers in the cosmic desert, missing the grand dance because they were kicked out before the music started. There is something sad in this, but also something peaceful. They will never experience the chaos of the merger, the disruption of established orbits, the remaking of galactic structure. They will continue on their straight-line paths through intergalactic space, aging slowly, burning their hydrogen in perfect solitude, eventually cooling into white dwarfs, or exploding as supernovae with no one to witness, no planetary systems to endanger, no companion stars to mourn. Your own fleeing thoughts will miss the peace you're descending into. They're already gone, escaped beyond the horizon of your attention, racing through mental spaces you can't follow them into. Let them go. They will burn themselves out eventually, will exhaust their fuel and fade, and you don't need to be there when it happens. You don't need to witness every thought's birth and death. You can stay here, in the center, in the galaxy of sleep, orbiting the black hole of unconsciousness in your slow, stable path. Some hypervelocity stars are actually intergalactic immigrants, not fleeing our galaxy but arriving from somewhere else, kicked out of Andromeda or another nearby galaxy, and now passing through the Milky Way on their way to nowhere in particular. They are tourists, visitors who never stop, just passing through on trajectories determined millions of years ago by events we can only infer from their current motion. Everything in the universe is in motion. Everything is going somewhere, even if that somewhere is just empty space, even if the destination is only more distance, more darkness, more of the same infinite void. But you are not in motion tonight. You are coming to rest, settling, finding your stable orbit, or maybe just falling toward the center and accepting the fall, accepting the pull, accepting gravity's invitation to stop fighting, stop fleeing, stop trying to escape what cannot be escaped. The galaxy holds you, the bed holds you, the earth beneath the bed holds you. Gravity never releases its gentle grip, and tonight that grip is not a prison but an embrace, not a constraint but a comfort. Breathe with the fleeing stars, with the wild refugees racing into darkness. Breathe in their freedom, their terrible liberty, their release from all bonds. Then breathe out, returning to yourself, to your body, to your place in the galaxy of this room, this moment, this night. In, tasting exile. Out, choosing home. In, feeling the wild trajectory. Out, settling into orbit. The breath is a bridge between extremes, between motion and stillness, between escape and return. The hypervelocity stars will travel for billions of years, will cross distances that no human mind can truly comprehend, will see things no telescope can follow, but they will do it alone, without companions, without reference points, with only the fading glow of distant galaxies for company. You are choosing different tonight. You are choosing the populated spaces, the connected orbits, the social galaxy where stars share space and light, and the slow conversation of gravity. You are choosing to belong, to be held, to orbit within the family of matter that knows itself as the Milky Way, deeper into belonging, safer in the gathered stars. The fleeing become distant memories, fading images, ghost thoughts that once seemed urgent but are already too far away to recall clearly. The galaxy breathes them out like exhaled breath, like shed skin cells, like old ideas released into the environment to make room for new growth, new thoughts, new stars born from the same material rearranged into novel patterns. All is recycling, all is transformation, all is the endless reshaping of what has always been and will always be. The pause comes like escape velocity in reverse, like the exact speed needed to fall back rather than flee, to return rather than depart. 45 seconds of accepting gravity, of allowing the pull, of surrendering to the force that has held planets in orbit for billions of years and will hold your sleeping body for the next 8 hours without fail, without wavering, without ever asking for permission or acknowledgement, just holding, just being the floor beneath the floor beneath the floor, the support that goes all the way down to the center of the Earth and beyond, to the gravitational well of the solar system, of the galaxy, of the entire local group of galaxies bound together by invisible threads of mutual attraction. Dust clouds are glowing in the darkness between stars, vast nebulae that would be invisible to human eyes if not for the light of nearby stars reflecting off their particles, or the ultraviolet radiation energizing their atoms to emit visible light. These are the stellar nurseries, the wombs where new stars are being born right now, this moment, as you lie here breathing in the darkness of your own room. The clouds are cold, just a few degrees above absolute zero, but they are dense by interstellar standards. Billions of particles in every cubic meter instead of the handful that populate the empty spaces between clouds. Feel the cold of space settling into your limbs, into your core. Not an uncomfortable cold, but the chill of deep relaxation, the coolness that comes when metabolic fires bank down, when the body stops generating heat at its daytime rate and allows temperature to drop slightly, conserving energy, entering the low-power mode that sleep requires. You are becoming a stellar nursery yourself, a quiet region where new dreams will be born, where thoughts will condense from the nebulous material of unconscious processing, where tomorrow's insights and ideas are already beginning to take shape in the darkness you can't yet perceive. The largest molecular clouds are called giant molecular clouds, and they contain enough mass to form millions of stars. They span hundreds of light years, vast enough to swallow dozens of solar systems whole, dark enough to block out the light of all the stars behind them. Inside these clouds, gravity is slowly gathering matter into clumps, condensing regions that will eventually collapse into protostars, infant suns that haven't yet ignited fusion but are already glowing with the heat of gravitational contraction, with the warmth generated by matter falling inward toward the growing center. You are contracting too, gathering yourself inward, pulling your scattered attention back from the edges of awareness toward the central core, where consciousness maintains its vigil even in deep sleep. The scattered thoughts of the day are being gathered, compressed, stored in memory or released entirely, while the essential you, the observer, the awareness behind all mental activity, settles into its own gravity well, into its natural resting state where it doesn't need to do anything, doesn't need to watch anything, can simply be without object or purpose. Inside the molecular clouds, complex organic molecules are forming. Carbon chains are linking together. Amino acids are assembling from simpler components. The building blocks of life are being synthesized in the frozen darkness of interstellar space. These molecules hitch rides on dust grains, accumulate in the clouds that will eventually collapse to form planetary systems. seed the new worlds with the chemical ingredients needed for life to emerge. The universe is brewing life everywhere, constantly, patiently assembling the pieces that will allow consciousness to arise and look back at its cosmic origins with wonder. Your own consciousness arose from similar processes, from the patient assembly of complex molecules in Earth's early oceans, from the emergence of self-replicating patterns, from billions of years of evolution selecting for nervous systems capable of modeling the environment, of predicting futures, of experiencing subjective states we call awareness and thought and feeling. You are the universe become conscious of itself, matter arranged in a pattern complex enough to contemplate its own existence, to ask questions about origin and meaning and purpose. But tonight you can rest from these questions. Tonight the molecules of your brain can simply hum along in their default patterns, maintaining consciousness at its minimal level, dreaming instead of thinking, allowing chemistry to do its work without the oversight of deliberate thought. The stellar nurseries are beautiful in infrared light, glowing with the warmth of stars being born, with the radiation of protostars heated by collapse, with the light of young stars still hidden by their dusty cocoons. Human eyes can't see infrared, but telescopes can, and they reveal these regions as spectacular landscapes of glowing pillars and dark silhouettes, of bright patches and shadow fingers, of cosmic architecture built from dust and gas and light. Imagine seeing your own mind in such light, seeing the infrared glow of thoughts forming, the heat signatures of emotions rising and falling, the bright spots of attention moving across the landscape of awareness. What patterns would emerge? What structures would be visible? Perhaps you would see the day's activities still glowing with recent heat, slowly cooling into memory. Perhaps you would see tomorrow's concerns already warming up, preparing to ignite with the sunrise and the return of waking consciousness. But mostly you would see the cooling, the settling, the slow return to baseline temperature as sleep draws heat away from active processing and allows everything to rest, to restore, to prepare for another cycle of activity. The dust in these clouds is made from atoms created in previous generations of stars, from carbon and silicon and iron scattered by stellar winds and supernova explosions, gathered again by gravity into new clouds, new nurseries, new sites of star formation. The cycle repeats endlessly. Stars are born from the ashes of dead stars, live their lives, die, and scatter their enriched material, providing the seeds for the next generation. Your own body is part of this cycle, made from atoms that were once inside stars, that were once scattered through space, that were gathered by gravity into the cloud that formed the sun and earth, that were incorporated into living organisms and passed through countless generations before arriving in this particular configuration you call yourself. Breathe the dust, the cosmic particles, the stellar ash that makes up your physical form, in, drawing ancient starlight into your lungs. Hold, feeling the age, the history, the billions of years compressed into this moment. Out, releasing yourself back into the cycle, back into the flow, back into the endless transformation of matter through time. You are temporary, but you are made of permanent things. You will change, but your substance will endure. You will die, but your atoms will continue, will join other patterns, will become other beings in the endless play of cosmic recycling. The molecular clouds are chaotic inside, turbulent with flows and currents driven by stellar winds, by magnetic fields, by the rotation of the cloud itself. Matter swirls and collides, compresses and rarefies, creates structure and destroys it in the same moment. But on the large scale, the cloud is simply collapsing, slowly falling inward under its own weight, fragmenting into smaller and smaller pieces until the pieces are dense enough to ignite fusion and become stars. Order emerges from chaos. Structure condenses from turbulence. Stars are born from the storm. Your mind is turbulent too, full of random activity, of thoughts colliding and combining. of emotions swirling through your awareness like eddies in a stream. But from this chaos, structure emerges, patterns form, ideas crystallize, insights condense from the chaotic flow of mental activity, like stars condensing from chaotic clouds. And in sleep, the turbulence settles, the storm calms, and what remains is the deep structure, the fundamental patterns, the essence without the noise, deeper into the molecular dark, safer in the dusty embrace. The clouds are cold, but they are full of potential, full of the promise of stars yet to be born, of worlds yet to form, of life yet to emerge. You too are full of potential in this moment, poised between the day that was and the day that will be, carrying both in your memory and anticipation, but existing in neither, simply here now, in the eternal present where all possibilities exist simultaneously before the wave function collapses and one particular reality manifests. The pause comes like the moment before a star ignites, the instant of maximum compression before fusion begins, the stillness at the center of the collapse where everything hangs suspended, where the future is determined but not yet revealed, where potential hasn't yet become actual but is about to, is on the very cusp of transformation. 45 seconds of suspended potential, of pregnant darkness, of the quiet before creation. Rest in this moment. Trust the process. The stars know how to be born. Your rest knows how to restore you. The universe knows how to continue its ancient dance of matter and energy, and you can stop trying to understand or control or manage any of it. Just be. Just breathe. Just allow the molecular clouds of your awareness to do their quiet work while you sleep. Fermi bubbles are rising from the galactic center like enormous cosmic ghosts, like the echoes of ancient violence. These are vast structures, each spanning 25,000 light years, reaching above and below the galactic disk like twin plumes of gamma radiation and X-rays. They were discovered only recently, in 2010, when gamma-ray telescopes finally had the sensitivity to detect them. For all of human history, until that moment, we didn't know these gigantic structures existed, didn't realize that our galaxy wore this strange crown of high-energy radiation. The bubbles are old, perhaps millions of years old, the remnants of a time when the supermassive black hole at the galactic center was feeding actively, consuming matter and blasting energy outward in powerful jets. Those jets have long since shut off, but the bubbles remain, expanding slowly outward, gradually fading as they dissipate into the intergalactic medium. They are ghosts of the galaxy's more violent past, monuments to events that happened when the Milky Way was younger, more chaotic, less settled into its current stable rotation. Your own mind has ghosts too, echoes of earlier events, memories of things that happened long ago, but still send ripples through your present awareness. Childhood experiences create patterns that persist for decades. Moments of trauma or joy leave traces that affect your current thoughts and feelings, even though the events themselves are long finished. You carry your history with you, like the galaxy carries its bubbles, evidence of past activity written into your current structure, even though the activity itself has ceased. Feel these ghosts settling, fading, dissipating into the background radiation of your awareness. They don't need to haunt you tonight. They can be acknowledged without being engaged, recognized without being amplified, allowed to exist in the periphery without demanding the center of attention. You are not your past. You are the present moment informed by the past, carrying its traces but not defined by them, free to respond differently even though the patterns suggest particular responses. The Fermi bubbles are symmetric, rising above the disk in the north and extending below it in the south, mirror images suggesting that whatever created them was a focused, directed event, something that shot outward along the rotational axis of the galaxy rather than spreading evenly in all directions. Perhaps the black hole's jets were aimed along this axis, Perhaps the event was the result of the black hole capturing and shredding a particularly large gas cloud, unleashing a temporary burst of activity before returning to its current quiet state. Your own awareness has an axis, a vertical dimension along which attention moves from the deep unconscious through layers of dream and imagery toward the bright surface of waking thought. Right now, you are descending along this axis, moving downward from the surface toward the depths, from gamma-ray frequencies toward the quiet radio waves of deep sleep, from the high-energy activity of waking consciousness toward the low-energy maintenance mode where only essential processes continue and everything else powers down. The bubbles contain cosmic rays, high-energy particles racing outward at nearly the speed of light. These particles were accelerated by the violence of the black hole's feeding, given enormous energies by the magnetic fields and radiation in the accretion disk, then released to wander through space, spiraling along magnetic field lines, interacting occasionally with gas atoms to produce the gamma rays that make the bubbles visible to our telescopes. They are messengers from the past, particles that began their journey millions of years ago and are still traveling, still carrying the energy of that ancient event outward into space. You too are carrying energy from your past, kinetic and potential energy stored in your body, in your muscles, in your memories, in the neural patterns that encode your experiences and expectations. But tonight you are releasing this energy, letting it dissipate, allowing the high-energy particles of worry and planning, and remembering to slow down, to lose their momentum, to settle into the low-energy ground state where they can rest and be renewed. The bubbles are fading, and so is your waking consciousness, both dissipating into the background, becoming harder to detect, merging with the general noise of existence. The exact mechanism that created the Fermi bubbles is still uncertain. Astronomers debate whether they came from the black hole itself or from an intense period of star formation near the galactic center, from supernovae exploding in rapid succession and blasting material outward in a galactic super wind. Either way, they represent a different era in the galaxy's history, a time of greater activity, greater violence, greater energy release. Now that era is over, and the galaxy is quieter, more stable, more conducive to the peaceful existence of solar systems and the life they may harbor. You too have had eras of greater activity, periods in your life when energy was high and events were intense and everything seemed to be happening at once. Those eras end, energy diminishes, intensity fades, life settles into quieter rhythms, more sustainable patterns, less dramatic but more enduring ways of being. Tonight, you are in the quiet era, the post-bubble phase, the time when the high-energy jets have shut off, and what remains is just the gentle expansion of spent force, dissipating into peaceful space. Breathe with the bubbles, with the ghosts, with the fading traces of ancient violence. In, acknowledging the past. Hold, feeling its shape, its residue. Out, letting it dissipate, fade, become background instead of foreground. The bubbles don't need to be solid to exist. The ghosts don't need to be loud to be real. Everything that was is still present in some sense, written into structure, encoded in patterns, but not demanding, not insisting, not preventing the present moment from being exactly what it is. The high-energy particles are slowing down in your awareness, losing their charge, settling into lower orbits closer to the nucleus of consciousness. The gamma rays are shifting to X-rays, to ultraviolet, to visible light, to infrared, to radio waves, to the quiet background hum that will carry you through the night without waking, without disturbing, without creating any structure visible enough to catch the attention of your dreaming mind. Deeper into the bubbles, safer in the ghostly light. The past is present but not oppressive, visible but not vivid, acknowledged but not amplified. You can carry your history without being crushed by it, can remember without being trapped in memory, can honor what was while remaining fully available to what is. The bubbles expand and fade. Your awareness expands and fades. Both are natural processes. Both are the universe's way of managing energy, of allowing intense events to have their moment and then dissipate, making room for new events, new moments, new patterns of activity yet to emerge. The pause comes like the moment of maximum expansion, when the bubble reaches its largest extent before beginning to dissipate entirely, when the ghost is most visible before fading into invisibility. 45 seconds of acknowledgement, of seeing clearly what is there without needing to change it or fix it or make it different than it is. The Fermi bubbles exist. Your past exists. Both are real, both are present, both are fading naturally into the background as time and space do their healing work of distance and dissipation. Rest in this fading. Trust this dissolution. The universe knows how to let go. Your body knows how to release. The night knows how to hold everything that day has been while transforming it into rest, into restoration, into the dark renewal that makes morning possible. Stars are arranged in families, in clusters born together from the same molecular cloud, sharing the same age, the same initial chemistry, the same history of formation. The largest of these families are the globular clusters, ancient collections of hundreds of thousands or even millions of stars, packed tightly together in a spherical shape, orbiting in the halo far above and below the galactic disk. These clusters are among the oldest objects in the Milky Way, born in the first billion years after the Big Bang, before the galaxy settled into its current spiral structure. Imagine a globular cluster up close, stars so densely packed that the night sky would be filled with thousands of brilliant points, bright enough to read by, even at midnight, a sky that never truly goes dark because there are always stars overhead, always light coming from some direction. Planets in such systems would have dozens of nearby stars, would navigate by multiple suns, would know a different kind of astronomy than we do with our solitary sun and our mostly empty local neighborhood. But you are not in a crowded cluster tonight. You are in a quiet region, in a sparse field where stars are separated by light years of emptiness, where the nearest suns are distant enough to appear as mere points despite their enormous actual size. This is your advantage, your privilege, the gift of being born in a calm neighborhood where life could evolve without disruption, where solar systems remain stable for billions of years, where the sky is dark enough to see the galaxy itself, to perceive the larger structure of which you are a small part. Feel the space around you, the emptiness, the room you have to expand into without encountering obstacles. Your body has this space within it too, mostly empty space actually, atoms separated by distances enormous compared to their size, with only occasional interactions between electron clouds defining the solid surfaces we perceive. You are mostly emptiness held together by forces, a pattern in space more than a solid object, a cluster of matter so sparse that a neutron star the size of a city contains more actual substance than your entire body expanded to planetary scale. The globular clusters are time capsules, preserving the conditions of the early universe, showing us what stars were like when the galaxy was young. They contain no massive blue stars, those having died long ago in supernova explosions. What remains are the middle-aged and old stars, the red giants, and the slowly fading dwarfs, stars that have been shining for 10 or 12 billion years and will continue for billions more, patient and enduring, outliving everything around them through sheer stubbornness, through the accident of being born with masses low enough to burn slowly, to stretch their hydrogen fuel over timescales comparable to the current age of the universe itself. You don't need to burn bright tonight. You can be a low-mass star, a red dwarf, shining dimly but enduring, maintaining just enough fusion to keep consciousness present without the fireworks of active waking thought. The massive stars are impressive but brief. The faint stars are humble but eternal. Tonight, Choose eternal. Choose the slow burn. Choose the patient shining that will carry you through the night without exhaustion, without depletion, without using up reserves you'll need for tomorrow's dawn. The stars in globular clusters all orbit the cluster's center of mass, but they do so in random directions, not in an organized disk like the galaxy's stars. Some orbit clockwise, some counterclockwise, some plunge through the center and out the other side, creating a chaotic three-dimensional dance of gravitational interactions. Occasionally, two stars will pass so close that their mutual gravity slings one outward at high speed, while the other settles deeper into the cluster, a trait of energy that slowly causes the cluster to contract over billions of years. Your own thoughts orbit your consciousness in similarly chaotic patterns, not all moving in the same direction, not organized into neat structures, just swirling around the center of awareness in whatever paths their particular energies dictate. Some thoughts dive deep into unconscious processing, some skim the surface of awareness, some are ejected entirely into the void of forgetting. The overall pattern is stable even though individual components move chaotically, bound together by the gravity of identity, by the coherence of being a single organism, a single mind, a single point of view, even though that point of view is actually a parliament of competing voices, a democracy of neural modules each pushing its own agenda. But tonight, the parliament is adjourning, the voices are quieting, the competition for attention is ending as sleep asserts its priority over everything else, as the need for rest overrides all other concerns, as the gravitational pull of unconsciousness becomes too strong to resist any longer. You can stop orbiting, you can fall toward the center, you can let the cluster of thoughts collapse into a single dim glow, a unified field of low-level awareness that maintains the self without the noise of active selfing. The globular clusters orbit the galaxy, but they are not part of the disk, not participants in the spiral structure, not involved in the active star formation and chemical enrichment happening in the younger regions. They are separate, ancient, observers from the halo, watching the disk rotate below them, rising and falling through the galactic plane on their own schedules, independent and self-contained. They are the elders, the witnesses, the ones who remember when things were different, when the universe was young and simple, when stars were pure hydrogen and helium, with barely a trace of heavier elements. You too can be an observer tonight, watching your own mind from the halo of meta-awareness, not involved in the drama of thoughts and feelings, but simply witnessing them rise and fall, come and go, appear and disappear. From this distance, from this altitude, the individual thoughts seem less important, less urgent, less demanding of response. They are just events in the disk, brief sparkles in the ongoing rotation, not requiring your intervention or concern. The observer can rest while the observed continues its automatic processes. Breathe with the clusters, with the ancient stars, with the patient witnesses, in, rising above the disk. Hold, observing from the halo, out, settling into witness consciousness. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness in which thoughts appear. You are not the disk. You are the halo that surrounds and contains it. You are not the turbulence. You are the stability that persists through all turbulence, the unchanging background against which all changes are measured. The globular clusters will outlive the spiral structure. When the Milky Way and Andromeda merge, the clusters will survive, will continue orbiting the new combined galaxy, will preserve their ancient patterns even as everything else is scrambled and reorganized. They are the most enduring structures in the galaxy, the most stable, the most resistant to disruption. Be like them tonight. Be ancient, be stable, be the structure that endures through all transformations, the pattern that persists even when everything else is changing, deeper into ancient light, safer in the cluster's embrace. The old stars shine with borrowed time, with photons that have taken thousands of years just to escape from their dense cores to their surfaces, with light that represents fusion reactions that happened millennia ago, now finally reaching space and beginning the long journey to distant observers. Your awareness is like this light, carrying information from deep processes, from unconscious computations, from the dense core of your being toward the surface where it can be perceived and known. But tonight the journey can pause. The light can rest in the depths. Nothing needs to reach the surface. Everything can remain in the core, in the dark, in the quiet place where processing happens without presentation, where the work gets done without any need for conscious oversight. The pause comes like the moment between orbits, when a star reaches the outer edge of its trajectory and hangs suspended before falling back toward the cluster's center, weightless for an instant, belonging nowhere, part of neither the outward nor the inward motion, but simply existing in the space between. 45 seconds of suspension, of belonging nowhere and everywhere, of being the cluster and the star and the space between, all simultaneously, without contradiction, without confusion, without any need to choose or decide or figure out which is true. All is true, all is present, all is held in the gravitational field of sleep's approach. The galactic disk is warped like a bent record, like a vinyl album left too long in summer heat, its edges curling up on one side and down on the other. For years, astronomers thought the Milky Way was a flat spiral, a perfect plane of stars rotating in orderly fashion around the center, but careful measurements revealed the truth. The outer edges of the disk wave up and down, creating a structure that looks more like a warped potato chip than a flat disk, undulating through space in a pattern that suggests something massive pulled at the galaxy's edges in the distant past. This warping is subtle, invisible to anyone living within the structure, just as you cannot perceive the curvature of Earth's surface when you stand upon it. The warp extends across thousands of light years, rising and falling by thousands of light years, but the stars within it simply follow their paths, unaware that the plane they orbit in is itself curved, itself distorted by forces too large to perceive from within. They are like fish swimming in a curved stream, following the contours without knowing the stream has contours to follow. Feel your own body warping now, bending, conforming to the surface beneath you. Your spine curves. Your limbs settle into the depressions they create in mattress and pillow. You are not rigid, not flat, but flexible, adaptive, taking the shape of your environment just as the galactic disk takes the shape imposed by the gravitational influences surrounding it. There is no perfect form, no ideal configuration. There is only the shape you are in this moment, and that shape is perfect for this moment, adequate for rest, sufficient for sleep. The warp may have been caused by the gravitational influence of the Magellanic Clouds, those satellite galaxies orbiting the Milky Way, pulling at the disk's edges as they pass by, leaving ripples in the stellar distribution like a boat leaving a wake in still water. Or perhaps the warp is even older, a relic of some ancient collision or near miss with another galaxy, an event long finished but still written into the structure of our home, still visible to those who know how.
To measure and interpret the positions of distant stars, your body carries similar warps, similar traces of past influences. Old injuries leave their marks. Repeated motions create adaptive changes in bone and muscle. Your spine curves in ways unique to you, shaped by the chairs you've sat in, the beds you've slept in, the loads you've carried through your life. These are not flaws, but adaptations, not mistakes, but records, not problems, but simply the shape you have become through living, through encountering the forces of existence and bending rather than breaking. Imagine looking at the Milky Way from outside, from a vantage point high above the galactic plane, seeing the whole structure at once, the flat inner disk giving way to the warped outer regions, the gentle S-curve running from one edge to the other, the organic asymmetry of real structures as opposed to the perfect symmetry of idealized models. It is beautiful in its imperfection, beautiful because of its responsiveness to forces, beautiful in the way it shows its history written in its shape. You are beautiful too in this moment, warped by gravity, by the pull of sleep, by the weight of your own body settling into rest. No need to hold yourself rigid, no need to maintain some imagined perfect posture. Let yourself warp, let yourself conform, let your edges curl and your center sink, and your whole structure find the configuration that requires the least energy to maintain, the shape of complete surrender to the forces acting upon you. The warp oscillates. As the disk rotates, stars move through regions that are curved upward and regions that are curved downward, creating a wave pattern that propagates through the disk like a slow-motion ocean swell. Each star's vertical position varies as it orbits, bobbing up and down through the plane, tracing a path that combines its circular orbit around the galactic center with this vertical oscillation through the warped disk. It is a three-dimensional dance, complex and beautiful, invisible to casual observation, but revealed by careful analysis of stellar positions and velocities. Your breath creates a similar wave, your chest and belly rising and falling, your ribs expanding and contracting, your diaphragm moving down and up, creating oscillations that propagate through your body, that rock you gently like a boat on a quiet sea, like a star bobbing through a warped disk. Breathe into the warp, into the curve, into the undulation. In, rising with the upward curve. Hold, suspended at the crest. Out, falling with the downward bend. The wave continues, regular and soothing, requiring no effort, no attention, only the passive allowing of forces to do what forces do. The warp is stable, despite appearing distorted. Despite deviating from the perfect plane, it is a self-sustaining structure maintained by the balance of forces acting on it. The disk doesn't flatten out over time. The warp persists, perhaps has persisted for billions of years, a permanent feature of the galaxy's architecture. What seems like imperfection is actually a stable solution to the complex equations governing galactic structure, a reminder that stability doesn't require perfection, that balance doesn't demand symmetry, that things can persist indefinitely even when they deviate from ideal forms. You can persist too, can endure, can remain stable even with your imperfections, your warps, your deviations from whatever ideal you imagine you should conform to. The galaxy teaches this lesson wordlessly, simply by existing as it is, warped and wonderful, bent and beautiful, imperfect and enduring. You are enough as you are. Your shape is the right shape for now. Your configuration is adequate for this moment. Rest in this adequacy. Trust this sufficiency. The stars in the warped regions don't know they're in warped regions. They simply follow their orbits, responding to the gravity they feel without reference to some external standard of flatness. There is no cosmic blueprint showing how the galaxy should be. There is only how it is, and that isness is complete, needs nothing added, nothing subtracted, nothing corrected or adjusted or improved. It simply is, and its being is enough. Breathe this truth deeper into your warping body, into your bending awareness. You simply are, and your being is enough. No need to straighten what is curved, no need to flatten what is warped, no need to correct or improve or perfect anything. Just this, just now, just the body breathing, the heart beating, the blood flowing through curved vessels in three-dimensional spirals, following paths determined by embryological development and years of adaptation, paths that are not straight, but are perfect for conveying blood, for maintaining life, for supporting the consciousness that rests now in the cradle of this moment. The disk waves like a flag in slow motion, like a sheet hanging on a clothesline in a breeze that takes millions of years to gust, like all the metaphors of motion frozen and extended until motion becomes structure, becomes permanent form, becomes the shape of stillness. You are waving too, very slowly, your awareness rippling from waking toward sleep, creating a wave in consciousness that propagates through your nervous system, that moves from cortex to brainstem, from voluntary control to automatic maintenance, from the bright surface to the dark depths where dreams swim in currents you cannot perceive or predict or control. Deeper into the warp, safer in the curve, the bent disk holds its stars as securely as a flat disk would, perhaps more securely because the warp adds complexity, adds structural features that might resist certain kinds of disruption. Your bent spine holds you as securely as a straight spine would, perhaps more securely because your curves distribute forces in ways unique to you, in ways adapted to your particular history of loads and stresses. Trust your curves. Rest in your warp. Let the imperfect form be the perfect form for this moment of surrender, this moment of letting go, this moment when sleep arrives like gravity arriving, inevitable and gentle, pulling you into the curved space around massive objects, into the bent time near black holes, into the warped geometry of rest. The pause stretches like the disk stretches, 45 seconds of pure extension, of space opening between breaths, between thoughts, between moments of awareness. The pause is not empty but full of potential, full of the unstruck notes, the unspoken words, the thoughts not yet thought, but gathering in the molecular clouds of unconscious processing, preparing to condense into dreams when the conditions are right, when the density reaches critical values, when the temperature drops low enough for complexity to crystallize from chaos. Magnetic fields thread through the galaxy like silk, invisible lines of force that shape the behavior of charged particles, that guide cosmic rays along spiral paths, that create structure in the seemingly empty space between stars. These fields are weak by laboratory standards, millions of times weaker than a refrigerator magnet, but they extend across light years, across the entire galaxy, creating a vast web of magnetic influence that affects everything from star formation to the paths of interstellar particles racing at nearly light speed. The fields are tangled, twisted, knotted in complex patterns by the rotation of the galactic disk, by the turbulent motions of gas clouds, by the magnetic activity of stars themselves, which generate their own fields and inject them into the interstellar medium. Over millions of years, the rotation of the disk winds up the field lines like winding up a spring, creating helical structures, creating loops and bridges and arcades of magnetic force that connect different regions of the galaxy in ways gravity alone could never achieve. Feel the invisible fields that permeate your own body, the electromagnetic forces that hold atoms together, that keep electrons in their orbits, that transmit nerve signals from brain to muscle, that make your heart beat and your neurons fire, and your entire organism maintain its coherent structure against the tendency of entropy to disperse everything into random chaos. You are held together by forces, by fields, by influences that operate at every scale from the quantum to the macroscopic, creating a nested hierarchy of organization that spans from the nucleus of each atom to the outline of your body in space. These fields in your body are changing as you relax, as you sink deeper into rest. The electrical activity in your brain is slowing, the frequency of dominant brain waves dropping from beta through alpha toward theta and eventually delta, the slow waves of deep sleep where consciousness nearly disappears but doesn't quite, where you remain present but barely, hovering at the edge of existence like a star at the edge of a galaxy, technically still bound, but so loosely that the slightest perturbation might send you into the void. The galactic magnetic field channels cosmic rays, those high-energy particles that race through space at 99% of light speed or faster, protons and atomic nuclei accelerated by supernova shockwaves or pulsar winds, or perhaps by processes near the supermassive black hole. These particles can't travel in straight lines because the magnetic field deflects them, curves their paths, sends them spiraling along field lines in long helical trajectories that look like corkscrews stretching across light years. Your own thoughts travel in curved paths too, deflected by the fields of emotion, of association, of memory.
A thought starts in one direction but is bent by anxiety into another direction, curves around fear, spirals along the field lines of desire until it emerges somewhere completely different from where it was aimed. This is normal. This is how minds work, following not straight logical paths, but the curved geodesics of neural space, the warped geometry of consciousness, where the shortest distance between two thoughts is rarely a straight line. But tonight the particles are slowing, the cosmic rays of daytime cognition losing energy, dropping from high-energy gamma frequencies down through X-rays and ultraviolet into the gentle visible light of relaxed awareness, continuing down through infrared toward the radio frequencies of deep sleep, the long, slow waves that barely count as electromagnetic radiation anymore, that are more like vibrations in a field than like light, more like the hum of existence than like discrete packets of thought. The magnetic fields store energy, vast amounts of energy held in their tension, in the stress of being twisted and wound by the galaxy's rotation. Occasionally, this energy is released suddenly when field lines reconnect, when magnetic structures reconfigure themselves into lower energy configurations, releasing the difference as bursts of particles and radiation. These magnetic reconnection events can accelerate particles to enormous energies, can create the cosmic rays that then spiral through the galaxy at nearly light speed. You too store energy in tension, in the wound-up fields of your musculature, in the knots and tight spots where stress has accumulated over days or weeks or years. But tonight this energy can release, not suddenly but gradually, a slow unwinding as muscles let go, as fascia softens, as the entire structure of your body shifts from the high-tension state required for activity to the low-tension state appropriate for rest. Feel the unwinding, the loosening, the gentle release of stored energy into the field around you, dissipating into the mattress, into the air, into the quiet space of the room. The magnetic silk threads everything together, creates connections between regions that seem separate, that seem isolated by the vast empty spaces between stars. But the field makes distance less absolute, makes separation less complete. What happens in one part of the galaxy affects the field everywhere, creates ripples that propagate at the speed of light, carrying information about events to distant observers, to particles that will respond by changing their trajectories, by spiraling in new directions along the reconfigured field lines. You are connected too, by fields invisible but real, by influences that operate beneath awareness, by the social fields of family and culture, by the gravitational fields of place and history, by the quantum fields that underlie all material existence, and in which every particle is actually an excitation, a wave, a disturbance propagating through the field itself. You are not isolated. You are not separate. You are a pattern in the fields, a temporary intensification of forces that will eventually dissipate, but that right now, in this moment, constitutes the structure you call yourself. Breathe with the magnetic silk, with the invisible threads, with the fields that hold without touching, that influence without contact, that connect without closing distance. In, feeling the field gather around you. Hold, sensing the web of connection. Out, releasing into the larger pattern. You are held. You are woven in. You are part of the fabric of existence, a thread in the cosmic tapestry, a strand in the galactic weaving that has been ongoing for 13 billion years and will continue for billions more. The fields are beautiful in their complexity, in their organic tangles, in the way they create structure from seemingly formless force. Radio astronomers can detect these fields by measuring the polarization of light from distant stars, by seeing how the magnetic field aligns dust grains, by tracking the synchrotron radiation emitted by electrons spiraling along field lines. The invisible becomes visible, the force becomes image, the abstract becomes concrete through careful observation and clever interpretation. Your invisible also can become visible, your inner fields expressed in posture, in gesture, in the subtle movements of facial muscles that reveal what you feel,
before you speak what you think. But tonight, the invisible can remain invisible. The inner can stay inner. The private can be perfectly private. No need to express. No need to reveal. No need to make the internal external. Just rest in the fields, in the forces, in the flux of electromagnetic influence that threads through every atom of your being and connects you to everything else in the universe through bonds too subtle to perceive but too fundamental to deny. Deeper into the silk, safer in the threads, the magnetic fields hum at frequencies too low for human hearing, but they hum nonetheless, vibrating with the motions of charged particles, with the rotation of the galaxy, with the vast, slow music of cosmic forces. You can hum too, can let a sound form in your throat if you wish, or can simply imagine the hum, the resonance, the vibrational quality of being alive in a universe that is itself alive with vibration, with wave, with the endless oscillations of fields around equilibrium states they never quite reach, always moving, always adjusting, always dancing in response to every other field, every other force, every other influence in the vast interconnected whole. The pause comes like a moment of perfect alignment, when all field lines point in the same direction, when all forces balance, when tension and release find their equilibrium point and hang there suspended, not moving toward tension or release, but simply being in balance, being in the exact center where all pressures equalize, and what remains is stillness, is peace, is the perfect rest of forces held in mutual constraint. 45 seconds of balance, of equilibrium, of the still point around which everything else revolves, but which itself does not revolve, does not move, does not participate in the dance, except by being the center around which the dance organizes itself. Stars are exploding somewhere in the galaxy right now, massive suns reaching the end of their fusion lives and collapsing catastrophically, their cores imploding in fractions of a second, releasing more energy than the sun will emit in its entire 10 billion year lifetime, blasting their outer layers into space at 10% of light speed, creating expanding shells of hot gas that glow for thousands of years before finally merging with the interstellar medium and disappearing into the background. These are supernovae, the most violent events in the galaxy's normal life cycle, stars dying in spectacular fashion, going out not with a whimper, but with a cosmic scream that can be seen across millions of light years. They are rare from any single observer's perspective, perhaps 2 or 3 per century in a galaxy like the Milky Way, but they are happening constantly somewhere, in some galaxy, in some corner of the observable universe, a star reaching its limit and exploding into glory, into tragedy, into transformation. Feel the small explosions happening in your own body, the constant dying of cells, millions every day, their membranes rupturing, their contents spilling out, their structures disassembling into component molecules that will be recycled into new cells, new structures, new living organizations. You are constantly dying and constantly being reborn, a process so continuous and gradual that you never perceive it, never notice the turnover, never sense that the body you inhabit is not the same body you inhabited last year or even last month at the cellular level. Supernovae create heavy elements, atoms heavier than iron, that can only be forged in the extreme temperatures and pressures of stellar collapse and explosion. The gold in any jewelry you wear was created in a supernova, as was the uranium in the Earth's core that keeps the planet warm with its radioactive decay, as was the iodine in your thyroid, and dozens of other trace elements essential to life. We are made of supernova ash, of the debris of stellar explosions, of atoms that were once inside dying stars and were scattered through space to eventually gather into new stars, new planets, new living beings. The supernova shell expands at thousands of kilometers per second. But even at such speeds, it takes thousands of years to grow light years across, to sweep up significant amounts of interstellar gas, to compress the molecular clouds it encounters, and trigger new star formation in the disturbed regions. One star's death becomes the trigger for other stars' births. a cycle of destruction and creation, of ending and beginning, of transformation that never stops, that has been running since the first massive stars formed and exploded, enriching the primordial hydrogen and helium with the first heavy elements, beginning the long process of chemical evolution that eventually allowed planets and life to form. Your own endings become beginnings. Each breath ends and the ending is the beginning of the next breath. Each day ends and the ending is the beginning of night, of sleep, of the restoration that makes tomorrow possible. Each life phase ends and the ending is the transition to the next phase, the crisis that forces growth, the death of old patterns that allows new patterns to emerge. Nothing is only an ending. Everything that ends also begins something else, creates space for novelty, releases resources that were locked in old structures, and makes them available for new combinations. The supernova remnant glows for millennia, gradually fading as the expanding shell cools and dissipates, as the energy of the explosion spreads across ever larger volumes of space and thins into insignificance. But even after the glow fades, the shell continues expanding, continues pushing into the surrounding gas, continues affecting the local environment in ways that persist long after the visible light has dimmed below detectability. The influence outlasts the evidence. The effect continues after the cause has vanished from view. Your influences will outlast you too, will propagate through time in ways you cannot predict or control, will affect people and places and situations in patterns too complex to foresee. Every action ripples outward like a supernova shock wave, creating effects that create further effects in an endless cascade of consequences. But you don't need to track these ripples tonight. You don't need to know what happens to the energy you've released into the world today. You can let it expand into the darkness while you rest, while you restore, while you gather energy for tomorrow's release, tomorrow's supernova moment of creation and destruction combined. Some supernovae leave behind neutron stars, ultra-dense remnants where the core has collapsed to nuclear density, where a teaspoon of material would weigh 1 billion tons, where gravity is so strong that atoms are crushed out of existence and only neutrons remain, packed together in a crystalline lattice that makes diamonds seem as insubstantial as fog. These neutron stars spin rapidly, often many times per second, and if their magnetic poles are oriented right, they beam radio waves into space like cosmic lighthouses, creating pulsars that tick with clockwork precision, the most accurate timekeepers in the universe. Other supernovae leave nothing but black holes, cores so massive that even neutron degeneracy pressure cannot resist collapse, that continue imploding until they disappear behind event horizons, becoming regions of space-time so curved that not even light can escape. These are smaller than the supermassive black holes at galactic centers, but they are still invisible, still dark, still detectable only through their gravitational effects on visible matter around them. What will you leave behind when your own supernova comes, when your own life reaches its limit and collapses into whatever comes next? Not neutron stars or black holes, but something else, some pattern of influence, some arrangement of memory in other minds, some subtle alteration of the world that persists after you're gone. But that is for later, for the far future, for a time so distant it might as well be in another galaxy. Tonight you are still shining, still burning hydrogen into helium, still maintaining the fusion reaction that constitutes your life. Tonight you rest so that the shining can continue tomorrow. Breathe with the exploding stars, with the dying suns, with the violent beauty of stellar death. In feeling the expansion, the blast wave, the outward rush. Hold, suspended at maximum, at the peak of the explosion before dissipation begins. Out, releasing everything, letting go completely, scattering your atoms to the cosmic wind, dissolving into the darkness from which you came and to which you will return, eventually, inevitably, but not tonight, not yet, not while there is still breath to breathe and rest to be had and sleep to sink into. like a stone sinking into dark water, down and down and down into depths where light doesn't reach and pressure is enormous but somehow comforting, somehow safe, somehow exactly what you need in this moment of surrender. The remnants fade, but the atoms persist. The glow diminishes, but the matter remains. The star dies, but its substance continues in new forms, new configurations, new expressions of the same fundamental reality. You will fade too, will diminish, will eventually return to the dust from which you rose, but the atoms will persist, will join new patterns, will become new beings in the endless transformation that is the universe's only constant, its only unchanging law, that everything changes, everything transforms, everything becomes something else while remaining fundamentally the same substance arranged differently. Deeper into the explosion, safer in the expanding shell. The shock wave carries you outward, away from the center, into the cool darkness of the outer regions where temperature drops and pressure decreases, and the violence of the core becomes a gentle push, a soft encouragement to disperse, to spread out, to become part of the larger medium from which new stars will eventually condense. You are dispersing now, your daytime coherence dissolving into sleep's more fluid state, your boundaries becoming permeable, your identity becoming less certain, less definite, less insistent on maintaining its separation from everything else. The pause comes like the moment between explosion and expansion, the instant when the core has collapsed and the energy has been released, but the shell hasn't yet begun moving outward, suspended between states, belonging fully to neither the star that was nor the remnant that will be, simply existing in the transition, in the pure change, in the becoming without being. 45 seconds of pure transition, of change without fixed points, of transformation so complete that before and after seem unrelated, seem like different universes connected only by the thread of continuous existence that runs through all changes and remains somehow itself, despite being the medium of all transformation. Pulsars are spinning in the darkness, neutron stars rotating hundreds of times per second, their magnetic poles misaligned with their rotation axes so that beams of radiation sweep through space like searchlight beams, like cosmic lighthouses warning of dangerous gravitational shoals. When these beams sweep across Earth, we detect them as radio pulses arriving with extraordinary regularity, ticking like clocks, keeping time with precision that rivals our best atomic clocks, sometimes even exceeding them in long-term stability. The pulsar's pulse is not the star itself flashing on and off, but the beam sweeping past our line of sight, just as a lighthouse appears to flash from a ship's perspective, even though the light itself is constant. Just the rotation of the beacon creating the appearance of pulsation. The neutron star spins because of conservation of angular momentum, as the stellar core collapsed from something the size of Earth to something the size of a city. It spun faster and faster, just as figure skaters spin faster when they pull their arms in, just as the universe conserves quantities even through the most violent transformations. Feel your own spinning, the rotation of your awareness through the day's activities, through morning and afternoon and evening, through work and rest and play, through all the different modes and moods and mental states that cycle through consciousness as regularly as pulsar beams sweep through space. But the spinning is slowing now, the rotation rate decreasing as friction with sleep's atmosphere drags at your angular momentum, converting rotational energy into heat that dissipates into the room, into the night, leaving you spinning slower, approaching the still point where rotation ceases and you hang suspended without orientation, without direction, without any axis around which to spin. Pulsars slow down over millions of years as they radiate energy into space, as their rotation gradually transfers momentum to the electromagnetic radiation they emit, as the tides raised in their crystalline crusts by their enormous magnetic fields create friction that drags at their spin. Eventually, they slow to the point where the emission mechanism shuts off, and they cease being pulsars, becoming merely slowly rotating neutron stars, dark and silent, invisible except to the most sensitive gravitational detectors. Your own rotation is shutting off for the night, your emission of conscious thought decreasing in frequency and intensity, your beams of awareness sweeping past fewer and fewer reference points as the rotation slows and the gaps between pulses lengthen. And finally, the pulses cease altogether, and what remains is just the dark rotating mass, consciousness reduced to its minimal maintenance level, awareness persisting but barely, without content, without direction, without purpose, except to maintain continuity through the night, so that waking can happen again when morning returns the energy needed for consciousness to resume its faster rotation, its regular pulsing, its beacon-like sweeping through the territories of awareness. Some pulsars are in binary systems, orbiting companion stars or white dwarfs, their gravitational interaction creating complex patterns of emission, of eclipse and occultation, of beams blocked and revealed in syncopated rhythms more complex than the simple ticking of isolated pulsars. These systems test general relativity's predictions with exquisite precision, their orbital decay matching Einstein's equations exactly, losing energy to gravitational waves at exactly the predicted rate, spiraling closer together at exactly the calculated speed. You too are in systems, in relationships, in gravitational bonds with other people, other places, other patterns of living that orbit around shared centers of mass, that create complex interference patterns, where individual rhythms combine into composite patterns neither could produce alone. But tonight you can orbit alone, can be the isolated pulsar, can spin in your own space without reference to companion objects, without the complexity of interaction, without the demands of gravitational binding. Tonight you are free, separate, spinning down in solitude toward the stillness that rest requires. The pulsar's beam carries information about the densest matter in the universe, about nuclear physics in conditions no laboratory can reproduce, about magnetism in strengths that dwarf anything achievable on Earth. Each pulse is a message from the extreme frontier of material existence, from the edge of what matter can do, before collapsing entirely into black hole singularity. The pulsar is a natural laboratory, an experiment running continuously, broadcasting its results to anyone with the receivers to detect and the mathematics to interpret the data encoded in each tick of the cosmic clock. Your own body is broadcasting too, sending infrared radiation into the room, emitting heat and moisture and carbon dioxide, releasing information about your metabolic state, about your level of activity, about the countless processes ongoing in cells and tissues and organs. But tonight the broadcast is quieting, the emission decreasing as metabolism slows, as the body downshifts into the lower gear appropriate for sleep, conserving energy, maintaining only essential processes, letting everything else idle or shut down completely until morning's reveille calls all systems back to active duty. Breathe with the pulsars, with the spinning beacons, with the clockwork regularity of the cosmos. In, tick, hold. The moment between ticks, out, talk. The breath becomes a clock, becomes a measure of time, becomes the metronome that paces consciousness through its descending gears, through its slowing rotation, through its gradual approach to the still point where time itself seems to stop, or at least to lose its urgency, its pressure, its relentless forward march. The millisecond pulsars are the fastest, spinning hundreds of times per second, young and energetic, recently born from supernova violence, still hot with the energy of collapse, still rotating at the tremendous rates imparted by the conservation of angular momentum in collapsing stellar cores. Over time they slow, settle, age into more sedate rotation rates, become the dignified elders spinning once per second or even once per several seconds, no longer young and frantic but mature and measured, no longer racing but proceeding at a pace appropriate to their age. You too can age into slower rotation, into more measured pace, into the wisdom of not rushing, of not spinning frantically through experience but moving through it with deliberation, with attention, with the respect that moments deserve. Tonight you practice this aging, this slowing, this approach to stillness that is not death but rest, not ending but pausing, not collapse but conscious choice to stop spinning for a while and simply be still, be quiet, be dark and silent like the neutron stars that no longer pulse, that have radiated away their rotational energy and now simply exist, dense and dark, waiting for nothing, going nowhere, just being what they are in the perfect stillness of complete rest. Deeper into the spin, safer in the slowing. The rotation decreases asymptotically, approaching but never quite reaching zero, always maintaining some minimal angular momentum, some vestigial motion that keeps the system from absolute rest, from the perfect stillness that would violate quantum uncertainty, that would specify both position and momentum with impossible precision. Even at rest you are moving, vibrating at molecular frequencies, trembling with the irreducible motion of atoms that can never be completely still, that must always maintain some kinetic energy as long as temperature is above absolute zero. The pause comes like the moment when the beam sweeps away from Earth, when the pulse hasn't yet ended, but the next pulse hasn't yet begun, when the pulsar is still spinning, but its emission is invisible to us, pointing in some other direction, illuminating some other part of space. 45 seconds of the missed pulse, of the pulse that exists, but that we don't detect, of the ongoing reality that exceeds our perception, that continues whether we observe it or not. The universe pulses on without needing witnesses. Consciousness persists without needing content. You can be the unobserved pulsar for a while, spinning in darkness, emitting beams that point nowhere in particular, simply being without being seen, existing without evidence, present without presence. Cosmic rays are whispering through the galaxy, invisible particles moving at nearly light speed, protons and atomic nuclei, and occasionally heavier particles racing through interstellar space on trajectories determined millions of years ago by whatever accelerated them to such extreme velocities. They pass through everything, through gas clouds and stars, through planets and people, through the walls of your house and the matter of your body, barely interacting with ordinary matter, leaving no trace of their passage except for rare collisions that ionize atoms or break nuclei apart. Every second, dozens of cosmic rays pass through your body, through your brain, through the nuclei of your cells, traveling at speeds so close to light speed that from their perspective, the entire galaxy is pancaked flat by relativistic length contraction. Compressed into a narrow disk they traverse in moments even though billions of years pass for stationary observers. They are time travelers, these particles, experiencing time so differently from us that they might complete their entire journey across the galaxy before a single second passes in their reference frame. Feel them passing through you now, these whispers from distant supernova, these messengers from the galactic center, these particles that began their journeys before humans existed and will continue traveling long after humanity is gone. They are touching you without touching, passing through without interacting, present but almost entirely absent, real but nearly undetectable. You are transparent to them, as insubstantial as empty space, as porous as a cloud to sunlight. This is humbling and peaceful, to realize your solidity is an illusion, that you are mostly empty space, that the apparent firmness of matter is actually electromagnetic repulsion between electron clouds, that the stuff you're made of is actually patterns of force, concentrations of probability, temporary condensations of field energy that will eventually disperse back into the fields from which they arose. You are not as solid as you seem. You are permeable, translucent, almost ghostly when viewed at the proper scale. The cosmic rays carry energy, enormous energy, some particles carrying as much energy as a baseball thrown at highway speeds. All that energy concentrated in a single atomic nucleus smaller than a trillionth of a meter across. How do they gain such energy? Supernova shocks, pulsar winds, perhaps acceleration near the event horizons of black holes, regions where electromagnetic fields reach strengths that can accelerate particles to these extreme velocities, can give individual atoms kinetic energies that dwarf the total energy of everyday human activities. Your own particles are lower energy, thermal motions at body temperature, kinetic energies measured in tiny fractions of an electron volt, rather than in billions or trillions of electron volts. But your particles are organized, coordinated, working together in systems and subsystems that create something far more complex than the most energetic cosmic ray. A cosmic ray is just a particle traveling fast. You are a living being, a conscious entity, an organized complexity that represents billions of years of evolution, of natural selection, of the universe learning to know itself through creatures capable of perception and thought. The cosmic rays don't know where they're going. They have no destination, no purpose, no goal except to continue moving until something stops them, which might be never, which might be billions of years from now, when they drift through the halo of some distant galaxy and finally collide with an atom and lose their energy in a brief flash of secondary particles. They are wanderers without aim, travelers without destination, moving because that's what they do, existing because they haven't yet encountered the conditions that would end their existence. You are not wandering tonight. You are arriving, settling, coming to rest in the harbor of sleep, into the destination of deep unconsciousness, into the goal of complete restoration. You have somewhere to go, which is deeper, which is down, which is into the dark depths where cosmic rays can't follow because they are too energetic, too high frequency, too fast and frantic to descend into the slow frequency domains where sleep reigns and dreams drift, and consciousness dissolves into something simpler, something more fundamental, something closer to the basic awareness that doesn't need thought or perception or memory to be aware. Breathe with the cosmic rays, with the whistling particles, with the high-speed wanderers. In, a particle arrives from deep space. Hold. It traverses your body in nanoseconds. Out. It departs towards some unknown destination. They come and go whether you're awake or asleep, whether you know about them or not, whether you consent or refuse. The universe operates at its own level, following its own laws, utterly indifferent to human awareness or concern. And there is peace in this indifference, in knowing the cosmos doesn't need your participation, doesn't require your approval, will continue its ancient dance, whether you watch or sleep through the performance. Some cosmic rays, the highest energy ones, create extensive air showers when they hit Earth's atmosphere, cascading into thousands or millions of secondary particles that spread across kilometers of sky, creating brief flickers of light detectable by arrays of telescopes, leaving trails of ionization that radio receivers can detect for milliseconds after the event. One particle becomes many. One event becomes a shower. The impact multiplies effects, creates consequences far larger than the initial cause. Your actions create showers too, cascades of effects, chains of consequences that spread through social networks in time, affecting people and situations in ways you never intended, never imagined, never could have predicted. A word creates a thought, creates a decision, creates an action, creates a result, creates a response, creates a chain of events that continues long after you've forgotten the original word. But you don't need to track these showers tonight. You don't need to know what consequences your day created. You can let the cascades develop without your observation, can trust that whatever needs to happen will happen without your conscious oversight. The whispers continue. Constant background radiation from the galaxy's violent processes, from supernovae and pulsars and black holes, from all the high-energy phenomena that make the Milky Way more than just a collection of peacefully orbiting stars. The violence is real, but distant, spread across vast volumes of space so that locally everything seems calm, seems peaceful, seems safe. And it is safe, here in your quiet eddy of the galactic current, here in your sheltered corner of the spiral arm, Here in your bed on your planet, in your solar system, in your suburb of the Milky Way, deeper into the whispers, safer in the particle stream, the cosmic rays pass through without harm, without effect, without leaving any trace you can perceive. They are like thoughts passing through awareness, appearing briefly, disappearing immediately, affecting nothing unless you grab them and hold them and amplify them into something more substantial than their natural fleeting existence. Most thoughts are cosmic rays, brief and harmless, worthy of no more attention than the particle that just passed through your chest, through your heart, through the nucleus of some cell in your liver or kidney or brain. Let them pass. Let the whispers whisper without needing to understand what they're saying. Let the particles travel through you without tracking their trajectories. Let the thoughts appear and disappear without holding them or pushing them away. Just neutral observation, just noticing what passes through the field of awareness, the way a telescope notices cosmic rays without judging them, without valuing them, without making them mean anything except that the universe is full of moving things, and some of those things occasionally pass through your detector.
And that's all. That's the whole story. There's no deeper significance unless you create it. The pause comes like the gap between cosmic ray impacts, the moments when nothing is arriving, when space is truly empty, when the vacuum is actually vacuum without even a single particle traversing it. 45 seconds of emptiness, of void, of the space between events where nothing happens, and that nothingness is full, complete, perfect in its absence of content. You can be the gap tonight, can be the emptiness, can be the void through which things pass, but which itself remains unchanged, unaffected, pristine in its essential emptiness that is somehow also fullness, somehow also the ground of all being, somehow also the source from which everything emerges and the destination to which everything returns. The galaxy is breathing, not metaphorically, but actually breathing in the sense that gas flows in and out of the disk, cycling between dense molecular clouds and hot diffuse plasma, between solid stars and tenuous winds, between clustered concentrations and dispersed voids. Matter condenses from the thin into the thick, then returns from the thick to the thin, a rhythm as fundamental as your own breath, as eternal as respiration itself. The breath happens at multiple scales. Individual stars breathe, drawing in matter from accretion disks or companion stars, exhaling energy as light and particles, maintaining themselves through this constant exchange. Stellar nurseries breathe, contracting as gravity pulls molecular clouds together, then expanding as the newborn star's radiation and winds push back against the infalling gas, creating oscillations that regulate star formation rates. The entire disk breathes, expanding and contracting slightly as spiral density waves pass through, as gravitational perturbations from satellite galaxies tug at the outer regions, as the complex dynamics of rotation and self-gravity create rhythms in the distribution of gas and stars. Your breath is part of this larger breathing, a local eddy in the galactic respiration, a small cycle nested within larger cycles like Russian dolls, like fractal patterns repeating at every scale from the quantum to the cosmic. In, you draw the same oxygen that has cycled through the biosphere for billions of years, that has been breathed by countless organisms before you, that has been split from water by photosynthesis and reassembled by cellular respiration, that has been part of rocks and oceans and atmosphere in different eras. Hold, this ancient oxygen pauses in your lungs, participates briefly in your metabolism, gives up some of its electrons to power your cells. Out, you exhale carbon dioxide that plants will breathe, that will eventually participate in photosynthesis, that will return to the cycle as oxygen for some future breather. The galaxy breathes at a pace of millions of years. Your breath cycles every few seconds, but the pattern is the same. Draw in, hold, release, repeat. In, hold,
out again. The rhythm underlying all rhythms, the pulse beneath all pulses, the fundamental oscillation that maintains dynamic systems far from equilibrium, that keeps stars forming and dying, that keeps life metabolizing and reproducing, that keeps consciousness cycling through its daily rhythm of waking and sleeping, of activity and rest, of engagement and withdrawal. Feel how your breath is slowing now, lengthening, each cycle taking a bit longer than the last, each inhale a bit shallower, each exhale a bit more complete. You are breathing yourself towards sleep, toward the slower respiratory rate of unconsciousness, toward the gentle rhythm that will sustain you through the night without needing attention or intention. The body knows how to breathe sleeping breath. You can trust this knowledge, can allow the automatic systems to take over completely, can surrender conscious control to the ancient brainstem circuits that have been managing breath since before mammals existed, since before lungs evolved, since the first organisms began exchanging gases with their environment billions of years ago. The galactic breath carries material between the disk and the halo, between the dense, star-forming regions and the tenuous hot gas that permeates the halo like atmosphere around the disk. Supernova explosions blow gas upward out of the disk in galactic fountains that rise thousands of light years before falling back, enriched with heavy elements, ready to participate in new rounds of star formation. This is the galaxy's circulation system, its metabolism, the flow that prevents all the gas from locking itself permanently into stars, that maintains the raw material needed for ongoing stellar birth. Your circulation is slowing too, your heart rate decreasing as you approach sleep, as the demand for oxygen and glucose drops with decreasing metabolic rate, as the body shifts resources away from active systems toward maintenance and repair systems that work best during rest. Blood still flows, but more slowly. Lymph still circulates, but more gently. Cerebrospinal fluid still pulses through brain and spine, but with reduced vigor. Everything slows, settles, finds its rest rhythm. The breath of the galaxy is turbulent, chaotic, full of eddies and vortices and shear flows that stretch and fold and mix the gas in complex ways. But on average, on the large scale, the flow is regular, predictable, a steady cycling that maintains the galaxy's ability to form stars continuously over billions of years rather than consuming all its gas in a brief burst of early star formation. The chaos averages out to order. The turbulence produces stability. The random motions combine to create reliable patterns. Your mind is turbulent too, full of random thoughts and associations and images appearing without clear cause. But this chaos is productive, is generative, is the source of creativity and problem solving and the unexpected connections that lead to insights. Tonight, the turbulence can settle, can spin down, can allow the chaos to average out to the stillness beneath, to the quiet order that underlies apparent randomness, to the fundamental simplicity that is always present beneath the surface complexity we mistake for the whole reality. Breathe with the galaxy, with the vast slow respiration of the Milky Way. In, gas condenses into stars. Hold, stars shine and enrich the medium. Out, gas returns to the interstellar space. The cycle continues, endless and endlessly sustaining. The breath that never needs to think about breathing, that simply breathes because that's what breathing systems do, that maintains itself automatically through feedback loops more ancient than thought, more reliable than intention, more trustworthy than any conscious plan. Feel yourself merging with this larger breath, your individual breathing dissolving into the cosmic respiration, your personal rhythm synchronizing with the galactic pulse. You are not separate from the Milky Way. You are a part of its breathing apparatus, a temporary concentration of its material, a local intensification of its ongoing metabolism. When you breathe, the galaxy breathes through you. When you rest, the galaxy rests in you. When you sleep, the galaxy sleeps as you, dreams as you, renews itself through your renewal, deeper into the breath, safer in the rhythm. The in and out become less distinct. the boundary between inhale and exhale blurring, the pause between breaths extending until you're not sure whether you're breathing at all or whether breathing is simply happening, whether you're doing it or it's doing you, or whether the distinction between doer and done is itself an illusion, a conceptual artifact that doesn't correspond to any real division in the continuous process that is breathing, that is living. That is the galaxy's metabolism expressing itself through this particular arrangement of atoms you temporarily call yourself. The pause stretches 45 seconds of suspended breath, of the moment between exhale and inhale when the lungs are empty but not demanding, when the diaphragm is relaxed but not collapsed, when everything hangs in perfect balance between the need for breath and the sufficiency of stillness. This is the eye of the hurricane, the calm at the center, the 0 point where all forces equalize and what remains is peace, pure and simple, without cause or content, without object or objective, just the peace that is always present when everything else stops demanding attention. Night has fallen deeply now, the words dissolving into silence, the narrative fading into the space between thoughts. You have traveled far through the galaxy's secrets, through billions of years and billions of light years, through the cosmic architecture that holds everything in its invisible embrace. The Milky Way continues its slow rotation, indifferent to whether you observe it, grateful for your presence within it, honored to have achieved consciousness through you, to have become aware of itself through your awareness. Sleep now in the galactic embrace, in the gentle gravity of stars, in the magnetic silk that threads everything together. You are held by forces that never tire. You are part of patterns that never end. You are one wave in an ocean of waves, one breath in an endless respiration, one moment of consciousness in the universe's long dream of knowing itself. Deeper, safer, quieter. The words are fading. The meanings are dissolving. Only breath remains, only darkness, only the peace beyond understanding, the rest beyond effort, the sleep that comes like gravity, inevitable and gentle, pulling you home to the place you never left, the center that is everywhere and nowhere, the eternal now that holds all time in its spacious embrace. Thank you for joining Knowledge Sleep Channel tonight. If you enjoyed this journey through the Milky Way's hidden secrets, please like and subscribe for more stellar sleep stories. May you rest in the arms of the galaxy until dawn returns you to waking light. Sleep well, sleep deep, sleep in the knowing that you are made of stars, held by darkness, and safely spinning through infinite space on a planet that has carried life for billions of years and will carry your dreams through this night with the same reliability it has always shown, the same ancient dependability of matter following its nature, of systems maintaining themselves, of the universe continuing its work of being universe while you rest, restore, and renew. Breathe deeper into stars. Drift eternal in velvet void. The galaxy cradles you now. Sleep comes. Sleep deepens. Sleep embraces you completely. The galactic bar is spinning at the heart of the Milky Way, a vast elongated structure of stars rotating like a cosmic propeller, like a stirring rod mixing the ingredients of the galaxy's inner regions. This bar is invisible to us from our position within the disk, hidden behind dust and distance, but gravitational measurements reveal its presence, show how it shapes the orbits of nearby stars, how it funnels gas toward the center, feeding the supermassive black hole in carefully metered amounts, like a cosmic feeding tube connecting the outer disk to the hungry heart. The bar rotates faster than the disk itself, completing its circuit in a different time period, creating complex patterns of resonance and interference, where the bar's gravity interacts with the spiral arms, where stellar orbits respond to multiple gravitational influences simultaneously, creating chaos in some regions and surprising order in others. This is the galaxy as machine, as clockwork, as an intricate device with many moving parts, all affecting each other through invisible gravitational threads. Feel your own internal bars, the structures that organize your inner life, the habits and routines that funnel energy and attention towards certain activities, certain thoughts, certain patterns of response. These bars are not rigid, but they are real, not visible, but certainly influential, shaping what flows where inside the complex system of your psyche. Tonight, these bars can slow their rotation, can reduce their influence, can allow a more chaotic distribution of mental energy, where thoughts flow where they will, rather than being channeled along established routes. The bar drives star formation in the inner galaxy, compressing gas clouds as they pass through its gravitational field, triggering collapse and ignition, creating new generations of stars that inherit the bar's rotational motion, that orbit in patterns determined by this invisible structure they may never perceive directly. You too were shaped by invisible structures, by family patterns and cultural norms and historical forces you never saw, but that determined much about what was possible for you, what paths were available, what destinations seemed achievable. But recognition of structure is not the same as imprisonment by structure. The bar shapes but doesn't determine. Stars still have individual motions within the overall pattern. Gas clouds still find their own paths through the gravitational landscape, and you still have freedom within constraint, agency within limitation, the ability to respond creatively to the conditions you didn't choose but must navigate regardless. Breathe with the rotating bar, with the stirring motion at the galaxy's heart. In, feeling the organized flow. Hold, sensing the channeling effect. Out, allowing some chaos, some randomness, some deviation from the structured path. The bar rotates and you rotate with it, but your rotation is your own. Your spin is unique. Your path through the gravitational field is yours alone, even though it's influenced by forces far larger than yourself. The bar is ancient but not original. The galaxy probably didn't have a bar when it first formed, but over billions of years the bar grew, emerged from instabilities in the rotating disk, crystallized from the complex gravitational interactions of billions of stars. Structure emerged from apparent chaos, order condensed from disorder. The bar is a pattern that found itself, that assembled itself from components that had no plan to create it, that arose spontaneously from the mathematics of rotation and gravity. You too are an emergent pattern, assembled from components that had no plan to create consciousness, that came together following local rules without global coordination, that somehow produced the extraordinary phenomenon of self-aware experience from the interaction of mindless neurons, thoughtless molecules, unconscious atoms. The miracle is not that you think, but that thinking happens at all, that matter arranged correctly becomes mind, that physics becomes psychology, that the universe becomes aware of itself through structures complex enough to model themselves and their environment. Deeper into the bar's rotation, safer in the structured flow. The churning motion at the heart continues whether you observe it or not, whether you understand it or not, whether you approve or disapprove of its effects on stellar orbits and gas flows. The universe operates on its own terms, following laws discovered but not created by human minds, obeying principles that existed before consciousness arose and will continue after consciousness disappears. The bar is reshaping the galaxy slowly, redistributing mass, altering orbits, affecting the overall structure in ways that will only be apparent after billions of years have passed. You are reshaping yourself too, more quickly, but following similar principles. Small changes accumulating, patterns shifting gradually, the overall structure evolving in response to internal dynamics and external influences. You are not the same person you were 10 years ago, will not be the same person 10 years hence. The bar rotates, the galaxy changes, you transform. All is flux beneath the illusion of stability. The pause comes like a moment when the bar's rotation aligns perfectly with the disk's rotation, when their periods synchronize briefly before drifting apart again, when for one instant the complex system finds an unexpected harmony that won't last, but that exists completely in its moment of being. 45 seconds of alignment, of all parts moving together, of coherence emerging from the usual chaos of competing rhythms and conflicting timescales. Rest in this alignment. Trust this temporary harmony. Let the patterns coincide while they will, knowing they'll drift apart again, and that's fine. That's how complex systems work, cycling through phases of order and disorder, of resonance and dissonance, of coherence and chaos. Gravitational waves are rippling through the galaxy like invisible tides, distortions in space-time itself created by massive objects accelerating through space, by binary black holes spiraling together, by neutron stars colliding and merging, by catastrophic events releasing energy in a form Einstein predicted but thought would never be detected because the waves are so incredibly weak by the time they travel across cosmic distances to reach our instruments. But we have detected them. Laser interferometers miles long measure the tiny stretching and squeezing of space as gravitational waves pass through Earth, changing the distance between mirrors by amounts smaller than the nucleus of an atom, creating interference patterns that reveal the wave's passage, that allow us to hear the universe in a completely new way, to detect events invisible to all electromagnetic telescopes, to listen to the gravity song of the cosmos. The waves stretch and squeeze you too as they pass, changing your height by amounts far too small to measure, alternately compressing you along one axis while expanding you along another, creating tidal effects in your body that are utterly negligible but theoretically present. You are being washed by gravitational tides right now. In this moment, waves from events that happened millions or billions of years ago finally reaching Earth and passing through everything, including you, leaving no trace except in the most sensitive detectors humans have ever built. Feel the stretching and squeezing, imagined if not actually perceivable. Feel yourself as elastic, as responsive to forces, as subject to influences from distant sources. The waves carry information about violent events, about black holes merging in spirals of mutual destruction and transformation, about neutron stars colliding in flashes of gravitational and electromagnetic radiation, about the death throes of massive objects creating ripples in the fabric of reality itself. Your own emotional waves ripple through the social fabric, creating distortions in the field of relationships, affecting others in ways you don't directly observe, but that are nonetheless real, measurable by those with sufficient sensitivity, present even when you're not aware of them. Every action is a stone dropped in the pond of causation. Every word is a weight accelerating through social space, creating waves that propagate outward at the speed of communication, affecting others who then create their own waves in response. But tonight, the waves can pass through without creating response, without demanding reaction, without needing to be measured or interpreted or acted upon. You can be transparent to disturbance, can allow the stretching and squeezing to happen without resistance, without even noticing, the way space itself doesn't notice gravitational waves, doesn't resist their passage, simply allows itself to be warped temporarily before returning to its rest configuration when the wave moves on. Breathe with the waves, with the rippling fabric of space-time. In, space stretches in one direction. Hold, the pause between stretch and squeeze. Out, space compresses, returns, settles. The waves pass at the speed of light, moving through the galaxy, through the local group of galaxies, through the entire observable universe, carrying information from events so violent they defy imagination, from energies so large that entire stars' worth of mass convert to pure gravitational radiation in seconds. The waves from the most distant events have been traveling for billions of years, have crossed distances so vast that the sources no longer exist. the black holes that created them having long since merged and settled into new configurations. The neutron stars having completed their collision and formed either a black hole or a more massive neutron star. The original objects gone, but their waves still propagating, still carrying the message of what happened long ago in a galaxy far away. You too carry messages from events that no longer exist, from childhood moments long past, from relationships that ended, from versions of yourself that have been overwritten by newer versions. The waves of those events still ripple through your psyche, still influence your responses, still create patterns in your emotional landscape that reflect impacts from sources that are gone, but whose effects persist. This is not wrong. This is how wave propagation works. The source can end, but the wave continues, carrying its information forward through time until it dissipates completely or is absorbed by something sensitive enough to detect it. Deeper into the waves, safer in the rippling space. The fabric of reality undulates gently, stretched and compressed by forces too vast to resist, too fundamental to avoid. You undulate too, your boundaries flexible, your structure responsive, your form adapting moment by moment to the forces acting upon it. There is no solid self, only a pattern of organization temporarily maintained against the tendency of entropy to disperse all concentrations, to flatten all gradients, to spread all energy evenly through available space. The waves carry energy but very little, almost all the energy staying with the source, almost nothing transferred to the medium through which the waves propagate. They are whispers of violence, echoes of catastrophe, faint traces of events that released more energy in seconds than the sun will emit in its entire lifetime. The universe is full of violence, but most of it is far away, separated from us by distances so vast that even light-speed communication takes millions or billions of years, creating a safety of isolation, a protection of space. The pause comes like the moment between one wave and the next, when space has returned to its rest configuration, but the next wave hasn't yet arrived, when the fabric is flat, undistorted, simply existing without perturbation. 45 seconds of flat space, of undisturbed geometry, of the calm between events that allows events to be distinct, to be separate, to be individual moments rather than a continuous blur of disturbance. Rest in the flat space. Breathe in the undisturbed geometry. Trust the calm that exists between all catastrophes, that makes catastrophes survivable by not being continuous, by allowing intervals of peace that restore and renew and prepare for the next wave whenever it arrives. Dark matter is threading through your body right now. Invisible particles that don't interact with light or with ordinary matter except through gravity, passing through atoms like cosmic rays, pass through larger structures, present but undetectable except through their gravitational effects on the motions of visible matter. The galaxy is embedded in a vast halo of dark matter, 5 times more massive than all the stars and gas combined, extending far beyond the visible disk, creating the gravitational well that holds the galaxy together, that keeps stars orbiting at speeds too fast for visible matter alone to explain. This dark matter is mysterious, unknown, possibly composed of particles that physics has never directly detected, possibly evidence of modifications to our theory of gravity at large scales, possibly something we haven't even imagined yet, but it's real. Galaxies wouldn't rotate the way they do without it. Galaxy clusters wouldn't hold together without it. The large-scale structure of the universe wouldn't match observations without it. Something invisible is shaping the visible. Something undetected is determining the behavior of everything we can detect. Feel the invisible forces shaping your life, the influences you don't perceive directly but that determine much about what's possible, what's likely, what actually happens. Social structures are dark matter, invisible in themselves but detectable through their effects on people's behavior. Unconscious processes are dark matter, unknown to introspection but revealed by their effects on conscious thought and decision-making. The future is dark matter, not yet real, but already shaping present choices through anticipation and planning and the gravitational pull of imagined destinations. The dark matter doesn't clump like ordinary matter does. It passes through itself without colliding, without friction, without the interactions that allow ordinary matter to dissipate energy and settle into dense structures like stars and planets. Dark matter remains diffuse, spread through vast halos, creating smooth gravitational fields rather than the lumpy, concentrated distributions of visible matter. It is the background, the medium, the substrate in which visible structures form and evolve. Your unconscious is like this, diffuse and smooth, providing the background field in which conscious thoughts arise and interact and dissipate. The unconscious doesn't have sharp boundaries, doesn't form discrete structures, exists as a continuous field of potential from which particular actualizations emerge into consciousness briefly before sinking back into the undifferentiated whole. You are like a star in a dark matter halo, a bright concentration of awareness embedded in a vast, diffuse field of unconscious processing that outweighs your conscious mind by factors of 5 or 10 or more. Breathe the dark matter, the invisible substrate, into drawing the unknown into your awareness. Hold, feeling its weight without seeing its form. Out, releasing back into the diffuse field. The dark matter holds the galaxy together while remaining invisible. Your unconscious holds you together while remaining unknown. Both work without acknowledgement, without appreciation, without any need for recognition or reward. They simply do their work, providing the gravitational glue that keeps complex structures from flying apart under the centrifugal forces of rotation, under the disruptive forces of internal dynamics. The dark matter halo extends far beyond the visible galaxy, out to hundreds of thousands of light years, creating a gravitational influence that affects satellite galaxies, that shapes the infall of new material, that determines which gas clouds will eventually join the Milky Way and which will escape into intergalactic space. The invisible shapes the visible. The unknown determines the known. The dark influences the light in ways we can measure but not fully understand. You are shaped by dark matter too, by influences you can't see, by forces you can't name, by the vast unknown that surrounds the small island of conscious awareness and determines most of what you actually think and feel and do. The conscious mind takes credit for decisions the unconscious has already made. Awareness illuminates choices after they've been selected by processes invisible to introspection. You are not as in control as you think, not as autonomous as consciousness suggests, more like a galaxy rotating in a dark matter halo than like a self-directed agent choosing freely from infinite possibility. But this is not cause for despair. The dark matter is not malevolent. The unconscious is not enemy. They are foundation, support, the stable platform on which the lighter, faster, more visible processes can operate without having to handle everything themselves. You don't need to consciously control your heartbeat, your digestion, your immune system, your balance, or the 1,000 other processes that keep you alive. The dark matter of your physiology handles all of that, leaving consciousness free to focus on the smaller set of tasks that benefit from deliberate attention, deeper into the dark, safer in the invisible halo. The unseen holds the seen. The unknown supports the known. The vast unconscious cradles the tiny conscious mind like the dark matter halo cradles the visible galaxy, like the ocean cradles the waves on its surface, like the silence cradles the sounds that briefly disturb it before fading back into quietness. You can trust the dark. You can relax into the unknown. You can let the unconscious carry the weight while consciousness dims and flickers and finally goes out for the night, leaving only the dark matter of deep sleep, the invisible processing that continues without awareness, that renews and restores and prepares you for tomorrow's return to the light. The pause comes like the space between particles of dark matter, the vast emptiness where even the invisible is absent, where there is nothing at all, not light nor dark matter nor space itself, only the pure potential from which something might emerge but hasn't yet. 45 seconds of emptiness beyond emptiness, of absence so complete it can't be imagined, only indicated, gestured toward, suggested by the absence of everything that usually fills awareness. Rest in this impossible emptiness. Trust this absolute void. Let even the dark matter dissipate until nothing remains but the potential for something to exist, the field of pure possibility that precedes all actualization. Stellar nurseries are glowing softly in your mind now, regions where new thoughts are being born, where the random activity of neural networks occasionally produces patterns coherent enough to cross the threshold into consciousness, into the realm where ideas can be recognized, named, remembered, acted upon. But most thoughts never make it that far. Most neural patterns form and dissolve beneath awareness, contributing to the background hum of brain activity without ever becoming conscious experiences. These subconscious thought nurseries work constantly, processing information from the senses, from memory, from the body's status reports, creating associations and connections, and the groundwork for insights that will emerge hours or days later into the light of awareness, seemingly from nowhere, but actually from the long, slow work of unconscious processing, of the mind working on problems while consciousness is busy with other things or dissolved completely in sleep. Tonight, these nurseries can continue their work in the dark, without your observation, without your interference. The best thinking often happens when you're not trying to think, when consciousness steps back and allows the deeper processes to work without the constraints of deliberate direction, without the limitations of conscious focus. Sleep is when the brain consolidates memories, forms new connections, solves problems it couldn't solve during waking hours when consciousness was trying too hard. Feel the glowing regions in your darkening mind, the warm spots where activity is higher, where neurons are firing in patterns, where something is being processed even though you don't know what. These are the stellar nurseries of thought, the molecular clouds of cognition, the regions where tomorrow's insights are gestating in the warm darkness of unconscious computation. You don't need to know what's being born. You don't need to supervise the process. You can trust the nurseries to do their work while you sleep, while you rest, while consciousness takes its nightly vacation from the exhausting work of being aware. The nurseries in the galaxy glow with infrared light, invisible to human eyes but detectable by telescopes sensitive to heat radiation, to the warmth of stars being born, of protostars heated by gravitational contraction, of dust warmed by stellar radiation. Your brain glows too, with the heat of metabolism, with the warmth of billions of neurons consuming glucose and oxygen, converting chemical energy into electrical signals, maintaining the temperature needed for proper function while radiating excess heat into the cooler environment of your skull, your skin, the room around you. As you fall deeper into sleep, the brain's energy consumption decreases but doesn't stop. Certain regions become more active during sleep, particularly those involved in memory consolidation, in emotional processing, in clearing metabolic waste that accumulates during waking hours. Sleep is not shutdown but shift change, not cessation but transition to different work that can only happen when consciousness steps aside and stops demanding resources, stops insisting on attention, stops interfering with
the deep maintenance that keeps the system functional over decades. Breathe with the stellar nurseries, with the glowing clouds, with the warm regions where creation happens in darkness, in new patterns forming in the molecular depths. Hold the moment before a thought ignites into consciousness. Out, releasing completed thoughts back into the medium, scattering their elements for future generations to use. The cycle continues, endless and endlessly productive, the birth and death of thoughts happening constantly, most of them invisible, only a few growing bright enough to be perceived by the conscious mind that thinks it's doing all the thinking but is actually just the observer of a tiny fraction of the mental activity ongoing at every moment. The nurseries are patient. Stars take millions of years to form from the collapse of molecular clouds. Thoughts take milliseconds to seconds to form from the collapse of neural noise into coherent patterns. But both processes follow similar mathematics, similar dynamics of gravitational or associative attraction pulling components together, of energy release as structures form, of the emergence of something new from the recombination of existing elements into novel configurations. You are always creating, always birthing new patterns, always reorganizing the same neural components into new thoughts, new feelings, new experiences. The components are conserved. You have roughly the same neurons you had years ago, give or take the gradual turnover of cellular replacement, but the patterns are constantly new, constantly fresh, constantly creative recombinations of the same fundamental elements. You are like the galaxy, recycling the same atoms through generation after generation of stars, of clouds, of planets, of living beings, each one unique, each one a novel expression of the same fundamental matter. Deeper into the nurseries, safer in the glowing warm. The infrared light is gentle, is soothing, is the wavelength of heat and comfort, and the deep rest where healing happens and strength rebuilds. You are in the nursery now, cradled in the warm darkness where growth happens, where restoration proceeds without effort, where the deep wisdom of the body does its work without needing instruction or oversight from the conscious mind that thinks it's in charge but is actually the child being cared for by the ancient parent of unconscious physiology. The pause comes like the moment between contractions of the molecular cloud, between compressions that drive star formation, when the cloud hangs in equilibrium, neither expanding nor contracting, simply existing in perfect balance between pressure and gravity. 45 seconds of equilibrium, of forces balanced, of the still point where change pauses but doesn't stop, where the system rests while remaining ready for the next phase of development, the next cycle of creation and destruction and transformation. Drift now, drift deeply into the stellar. Nurseries of sleep where dreams are born from the collapse of waking thoughts, where new patterns emerge from the chaos of dissolving day structures, where the mind reorganizes itself in the darkness, preparing for tomorrow's light, tomorrow's waking, tomorrow's return to the conscious world that seems so real but is actually just a small fraction of the total reality of mind, of brain, of the vast unconscious processes that continue, whether consciousness observes them or not. The Milky Way is vast, 100,000 light years from edge to edge, 400 billion stars following their orbits through the galactic night, some fast and young, others slow and ancient, all of them participating in the grand rotation, the slow spiral dance that has continued for over 13 billion years and will continue for billions more, long after humanity is gone, long after Earth itself has been consumed by the sun's expansion into red giant phase, long after any record of human existence has been erased by time and entropy and the patient work of cosmic forces returning all structures to dust. But tonight the galaxy remembers you, holds you, cradles you in its spiral arms, in the vast dark matter halo, in the magnetic fields and stellar winds and gravitational tides that connect all things, that make separation an illusion and isolation impossible. You belong here, in this galaxy, on this planet, in this moment, breathing this air, resting on this surface, held by this gravity that has never failed, that will never abandon you, that keeps you exactly where you need to be for exactly as long as you need to be here. Sleep now in the knowledge of stars, in the wisdom of galaxies, in the peace of knowing you are made of cosmic material, temporary and eternal, unique and utterly common, a wave in the ocean of existence, a note in the symphony of being, a thought in the mind of the universe contemplating itself through the strange magic of consciousness, of awareness, of the impossible fact that matter arranged correctly becomes mind, that physics becomes experience, that the cosmos wakes up inside creatures,
made of its own substance, and looks back at itself with wonder. Deeper into stars, drift eternal through velvet void where darkness holds you closer than light ever could. The galaxy breathes its 13 billion year breath. You breathe your moment breath. Both are sacred. Both are necessary. Both are the universe being itself through different expressions, different scales, different configurations of the same fundamental reality that has always existed and will always exist, though in forms continuously changing, continuously transforming, continuously becoming something new, while remaining essentially what it has always been, being, existing, the mysterious fact of something rather than nothing, of awareness rather than absence, of this moment holding all moments, of now containing eternity in its spacious embrace. If this journey through the hidden secrets of the galaxy has brought you peace, has carried you toward the sleep you need, please like this video and subscribe to Knowledge Sleep channel for more cosmic voyages into rest. Share this with anyone who needs the gentle embrace of stellar wisdom, the soft comfort of astronomical truth told in whispers that guide rather than demand, that invite rather than insist, that offer sleep as a gift rather than a requirement. The stars are still there, still shining, still turning in their ancient orbits. You are still here, still breathing, still held by gravity and love and the vast impersonal forces that care for everything equally, by caring for nothing personally, by simply being what they are and doing what they do without judgment or preference or any awareness of the difference between one star and another, one person and another, one moment and another. All moments are equally moment. All beings are equally being. All rest is equally rest. You are resting now in the arms of the cosmos, in the cradle of space-time, in the dark nursery where consciousness dissolves into sleep, where sleep deepens into dreams, where dreams drift into the formless awareness that underlies all form, all thought, all experience. Breathe, release, let go. The galaxy holds you. The darkness embraces you. Sleep comes like dawn comes, inevitable and gentle, arriving in its own time, requiring nothing but your willingness to receive it, to allow it, to sink into its depths and trust that morning will return, that waking will happen, that this is not an ending but a pause, a rest, a necessary darkness between lights. Sleep now, sleep deep, sleep well in the galactic embrace, knowing you are home, you are safe, you are exactly where you belong, in this vast spinning spiral of stars and darkness, and the mysterious forces that bind all things into one great breathing cosmos, of which you are not just a part but an expression, a voice, a way the universe experiences itself from this particular angle, this unique perspective, this temporary and precious point of view that is you, that is only you, that has never been before and will never be again. That is the gift existence gives to itself through your existence, through your consciousness, through your ability to know that you are and to rest in that knowing until sleep erases even knowing and leaves only being, pure and simple and complete.